Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
Together with Shayley, and together we've got a show. I think you've turned on the TV just at the right time, because if you haven't written a legally binding will, you're going to discover just how important it is, because sadly, you have got a will if you haven't written one. The government has written one for you.
And we're going to explain exactly how that works. And we're working directly with Simpler Law this evening. We'll tell you how to get in touch and the fabulous offers that we've got. But it's not just wills, it's also lasting power of attorney that we're going to be talking about. You might have heard of that, but not sure what it means. Well, we'll explain that in just a couple of moments for you.
Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
And together we've got a show that we were just chatting about this. It's just the right time that you've turned on the TV, because if you haven't written a legally binding will, did you know that there is a will that falls in place instantly that's been written by the government, and it definitely isn't what you all want?
It's over 100 years old. It's so outdated. It's a series of just yes, no questions. So we're going to explain why it's so important to write your own legally binding will and do it with experts. And we're working directly with experts this evening, working with Simpler Law. It's not just wills we're going to be talking about. We'll also be talking about lasting power of attorney. So if you've heard of that, but you're not quite sure what it means, we'll explain why that's so important as well.
I think it's something that a lot of us, we put off. I know we did. I think lots of us think it's going to be really expensive. It's going to be really complicated. Well, all of that it's no to all those questions today, because it's not complicated. Simpler Law make it so easy. It's not expensive, and actually it's even better because we've got a time-limited offer and some prices you won't quite believe. And I think it is something we put off, but you don't need to put off anything tonight. All you need to do is get in contact and secure the prices that we're going to show you, because it's all about getting that will and that lasting power of attorney sorted. And as I say, you'd think it would be something, we thought doing a will would be so expensive, and I didn't realise, we're not married, that had one of us passed, neither of us would have been actually entitled to either, even though we've been together 34 years.
There's no such thing as common law.
And even if you're married with children from different families, it gets so complicated. So get that will written, and you can get that will written, oh my goodness, for under £100. Should be £249. Our show special, 124, but you have got an extra 20% off. Not always, we don't always have 20%. You've got that extra 20% off down to £99. And the other great thing is, I mean, that's a brilliant price as it is. What you've worked so hard for, what you want to happen is going to happen. But you can split the cost to 4 payments. So you can split it to £24.75, and paying that over those 4 monthly payments makes it so affordable.
So the lasting power of attorney that we were talking about, the suggested retail price there is £349. We'll explain exactly what it is and what it means. The offer price should have been £239, but an extra 20% off the price there as well brings it down to £189. And with those 4 interest-free payments, £47.25 on your first of 4 payments. The biggest saving of all, though, is if you go for a will and lasting power of attorney. Should be almost £600. It's £315 at the offer price, but with the extra 20%, it comes down to £249, and that's £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
Now, as long as you secure the deals tonight, even if you change your mind through the show and think, oh, I said I wanted the wills, but actually I want will and lasting power of attorney, you have secured all the prices as long as you get in contact. And another reason to get in contact is time limited. It's till close of business on Monday. But another reason to do it right now, this is the best time to do it, is the first 250 people get a fabulous book, and this book makes life so easy. It's what your family should know, and it's all that vital information that people go hunting for, and it could be in secret boxes here and there, but actually lots of things are technical now. So it's on your your tablet,
your phone,
it's passwords.
You can secure all your passwords in there, insurance policies, bank accounts. It's keeping everything in one place just to make it easier. So the first 250 people will get that book as long as you secure the offer.
So I should get in contact, and it's so easy to get in contact. You don't even need to speak to anybody tonight. You just need to know, I need to do a will. I need to do our lasting power of attorney. You can go via Simpler Law's website. So it's simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. The team are on the phones right now, and they'll be there till 3 a.m. and back in the morning from 9. And that's 03600 2600. So please make sure you jump onto those phones right now while the team are there.
That's 0333 600 2600 on the phone number if you want to call the call centre. The easiest way, though, is to text. Just text the word will, WILL, to 66777. You don't need anything with you. The team will get back to you later on today and secure the offer for you. But the important thing to remember is you don't need any documentation. You don't need any identification with you right now. It's just a case of securing the offers.
And that's what you're doing. And then you've taken that first step. I think that's the thing we're rubbish at, isn't it? We never get round to getting things done. But when you've taken that first step, it is all so easy. You can go via our website as well. If you scroll down to the first page, round about the middle, you'll find it says Simpler Law. Click onto that and it'll take you through to this page, and you will see all those prices. And all the numbers are there as well for your phone number, how to text. But actually, you can just fill in this really simple form. Click submit, and that is you. You've secured every price. But remember, it is time limited, so please do it right now so you don't miss out.
So we're working directly with Simpler Law, and the team are with us here to explain everything you need to know when it comes to wills and lasting power of attorney. So Ian and Georgia from Simpler Law are with us. Lovely to see you both again.
Thank you. Morning.
These shows, we get such a great response, don't we? And Ian, first of all, I think it's important. Everybody needs a will, don't they?
They do. You know, it's your last act on planet Earth. And I think, like you said right at the top of the show, there's a lack of information out there, and people don't necessarily realise that if they don't make their own will, that there is one waiting for them. I quite like it. They said it's waiting for you, because that's exactly what it is. There's something called the rules of intestacy. And if you think about it logically for a second, there has to be like a backup or a default position if someone passes away without their own will.
That's so wrong, but there has to be something, doesn't there?
Yeah, it would literally be anarchy, wouldn't it? Because then how would anything get distributed? You know, because some people pass away and they never even talk about what they want to happen. So families have to be given some guidance, and in this case, it's not guidance. They've got a set of laws, if you like, under the rules of intestacy. We call it the government will, that basically starts with your marital status and then depends on a series of yes/no questions, what the answers are to that, as to where your estate goes. And it doesn't care about you, it doesn't care about your family, because it can't.
No.
It's just this default position to make sure there is somewhere for your assets to go.
And it's so old, and the world has changed.
It's a little bit outdated,
so much.
isn't it?
Well, it was originally put together in 1925, so society was very different then. You know, if we're speaking to clients today, it's not unusual if we're speaking to a couple that might be on their second relationship, second marriage. They may have children together, they may have children from different relationships. That's just not unusual today. In fact, that's arguably normal.
Yeah.
In 1925, that family dynamic didn't really exist. So the rules haven't changed, and it sounds melodramatic, but that family can be torn apart if they pass away without the right planning in place. And really, the reasons that we do these shows is we want to tell people, look, have a think about this, because you don't know how difficult you can make an already bad situation by not planning ahead. And as we've already shown, this isn't expensive, and I also like what you said. It's definitely not morbid, it's definitely not complicated. And sometimes people do put it off because they think, oh, it's going to be difficult and it's going to be pricey. It's none of those things. But we can only prove that to you if you send us a text tonight, or you pick up the phone and phone 0333 600 2600.
It's taking that first step that's so important.
That's something we're quite rubbish at, but sadly one day it will be too late. And I don't know what happens when we pass, but I like to think Dad's looking down on us, and you'd be devastated, wouldn't you, if you really knew what you wanted to happen, you knew who you wanted to have certain things, but you hadn't written that legally binding will. Perhaps you'd told the kids so they know what you want to happen. But sadly, if there isn't a legally written will, that government will falls into place, and it's not what you want to happen. It wouldn't work for us because we're not married, so sadly that would be we'd have the wrong answer to the first question and sort of fail straight away, which we've been together 35 years, but the government don't care about that. And then we were talking about there's so many families now that have got children from,
Mixed families,
from
blended
different
families.
relationships.
Yeah.
They live as one big family. They don't see themselves as stepsisters or stepbrothers. However, that government would definitely not work for them either, would it?
No, it can literally tear that family in half, in so much as, forgive the finger puppets, but if you've got a couple that are on their second marriage and you've got Mr. and Mrs., and let's say they've both got children from their previous relationship, it then becomes a lottery on which child loses out, depends on which parent passes away first. Because if Mr. passes away first, under the rules of intestacy, the government everything will pass to his wife. So everything goes to Mrs., which is absolutely fine, but then when Mrs. passes away, it will go down to her children only, to the exclusion of his. And people are baffled by this and going, well, that's not right, that's not fair. But it isn't about being right or fair. That's what the law says at the moment. And that's why it's so important to make a will, because then everything that you've worked hard for, you decide where it goes and who it goes to. And if you're listening to me now and you're thinking, I'm sure it'll be okay, or someone's told you that it's been okay, that's the worst position to be in. I would encourage you just to think for a second, who told you that everything's going to be okay? Who told you that you didn't need a will? Has someone mentioned, like you just said, Sean, oh, you're okay because you're common law husband and wife? There's a lot of myth and misconception,
isn't it? Yeah.
And the number of times we met people who said, oh, everything will be okay because, and we're like, well, it won't. And I think what you said is absolutely spot on, Hayley, that the rules of intestacy don't work for anybody. They just work as a default position.
They have to work,
Yeah. When you make your own will, it's yours. You choose who's going to administer it. You choose, when your children inherit. You choose guardianship if you've got young children.
That's it. There's so much you can do with a will, isn't there? And we didn't realise that. And until you actually sit down with the team, and it is a sit down, a lovely chat like we're having tonight. You don't have to know the answer to any questions or even really need any paperwork. You just need to know you need to do a will. And it's great because Simple Law have the right questions and you've got the answers. Me and my mum are the biggest panickers ever. We did the lasting power of attorney with Simple Law before they came to us here at Shop on TV. And we were so panicked and it was just so easy. We didn't need to know anything. There weren't, big long words that weren't explained. We understood everything, and everything went at our pace.
It's a real hand-holding service. That's the nice thing about it. You're not confused by legal terminology, or if you are, it's all explained to you.
And there's so much we don't realise as well, because Georgia, there is so much we can do with a will. Some people might think I haven't got anything. But then when you actually sit down, you probably own your house and the car, but actually there's lots of personal things, children, pets, so many things.
Yeah, there are. And there's gifts of jewellery as well, for example.
Yeah, heirlooms.
Exactly, engagement rings, wedding rings that you want to gift in a will. Like Ian mentioned, guardianship of children. Pets, that's a really important one. A lot of people see pets as their children and they want to care for them or have them cared for in that manner.
So in your will, you could put who you want to look after your pet, perhaps give them money. Or...
Yeah, leave a fund for them to look after them, or have things they need or want. It's exactly the same as leaving it for a gift for anybody, child, family member, whoever. But as well as talking about people you want to include in the will, it's also important to discuss people that maybe you don't want to inherit from your will.
Right, who would naturally inherit. Maybe you've had a family fallout.
And I think a lot of people perhaps find that embarrassing, but actually that is so common now.
So common. We see it every single day. We get a lot of circumstances, say for example a parent's making a will and they've excluded one of their children because they've not spoken for such a long time, or there was a family fallout a little while ago. So it's important to consider that as well, and it's nothing to be worried about or concerned about. We'll take you through the whole process, start to finish, and hold your hands through it, so you're left with documents that are completely bespoke to you at the end of it.
And I like the thing as well that, and again, perhaps something you won't have thought about, if you did pass and your children were sort of 17, they were the right age to inherit, would you want them to get everything at 17? Because when you think back to what we were like, I was
a very responsible young adult.
I can imagine.
I'm sure if I came into any kind of money, I would have made absolutely the right decision. But this comes full circle to the will, because parents know their children better than anybody else. And it's quite funny because sometimes you'll speak to parents and they'll be like, Well, our daughter's okay to inherit, but can our son inherit at 23 or 25? In fact, can he make it until he's 50? But all joking aside, you know your children better than anybody else.
You wouldn't want them to waste it, would you? And you'd want to make sure that they were okay going through college and then perhaps okay when they buy the first house. So could you stagger it like that?
Yeah.
You can indeed, yeah. You can choose to let them have it at 25, for example, or you can stagger it from the legal age of 18 to 21, 25, however you want to.
I love what you guys always say, it's your document, so it's your wishes, isn't it? It's everything that you want to be written down.
We just facilitate it, so we're there to take your instructions. What you said is absolutely correct, is we have all the questions and our clients have all the answers, and at the end of it, we only draft a will for our clients when they're 100% happy with the instructions they've given us and they're 100% happy with the advice that we've given them, you know, and we will go at their speed. We panic sometimes if a client says my situation is really simple,
right?
Because that can often become quite complicated. And interestingly, some clients again might put this off because they think their situation is complicated, and then pleasantly surprised when, oh, actually that was relatively straightforward for us to sort out.
Well, you know how to do things, don't you? Because
it's all we do.
That's it. Some people at home might be thinking, oh, well, I have looked at buy-in. You can get a template, can't you? And you can write your will yourself. But you have to pay for those. And then you're completely on your own trying to do something that's sort of legal by yourself. And I'm sure it must be baffling to try and do it on your own.
What bothers me about templates is they're relatively straightforward, but that's part of the problem. If you make a template or if you buy a template, you're not going to get any advice from that template. So you can put your name on there and you can put your address and you put where you want something to go. But how do you know that you're maximising all the inheritance tax thresholds, for example? How do you know that you've written it right if there's like things that you want different on a first and second death if you're writing it as a couple? Because one of you is going to pass away before the other. And lots of mistakes can be made quite easily. And understandably, I don't service my car for a reason. I haven't got a clue how it works.
No.
And if I get a toothache, I go and see a dentist. So I understand why these templates exist, but they're not going to give you any advice. And if you make a mistake, that's on you.
And wasn't there a couple, were they grandparents, and you say in that first and second death, they'd written it wrong, hadn't they, without knowing? So they knew what they wanted, they'd written it down, but because they hadn't had help.
We got a phone call off a couple that we'd done wills and lasting power of attorney for, and it turned out it was her father that had passed away, and they were looking for some advice because he'd done a template from a high street shop. He'd written a mirror will with his wife, and what transpired was this gentleman owned their house outright, and it was clear that what he wanted to happen was for his wife to have everything, and then when they both weren't there, they wanted to leave cash gifts to the grandchildren. But the way that he'd written the will, he'd left £20,000 to each of his grandchildren, and he described it as such. And apparently when he wrote the will, there was only 3 grandchildren, and when he passed away, there was 8. So now there's £160,000 got to come out of the estate, but he'd written it in such a way that the £160,000 was due to the grandchildren before everything else went to his wife.
Oh, gosh.
Which would have meant the sale of the property, which clearly wasn't their intention. So there are little nuances and quirks that, you know...
Just writing something down wrong like that.
Yeah, and he didn't...
It's not knowing the terminology.
Yeah, he didn't do it.
It's so easy.
Yeah, he didn't do it with malice. You know, when you say something like first death and second death, that might sound a little bit strange unless you work in this sector. But this is all we do. You wouldn't come to us for a boundary dispute, for a personal injury claim, for a divorce. But if you want to guarantee that what you've worked hard for is going to go to where you want it to go, we can help you create the last gift that you leave your family. It's your last act on planet Earth. Please don't let it be a set of rules that isn't designed for you, that's there for like millions of people that haven't made a will. Let your last act be your last act. Create a will, it's bespoke, it's unique, and you care about it, and in turn it kind of cares about you. Whereas the rules of intestacy don't care, it's just a default position, right, how do we deal with this person's estate? And it's horrible, it can make a horrible situation so much worse.
And that's the government will that automatically falls into place if you haven't got a legally binding will. You might be at home thinking, I haven't got a will. Well, you have. Because if you haven't written your own, a legally binding proper will, the government will fall into place.
The government takes over, and it is literally what we're seeing here. It's just a series of yes/no questions. So if it was us, Ian, and obviously we're not married, so what the first question? That's pretty much the first question, is it?
That first question there at the top says, "Are you married or in a civil partnership?" That's what it's asking of the person that's passed away.
Right.
And if the answer's no, you can see that it moves straight to do you have children, and then it goes straight to you have parents. It says nothing about a partner or a lover. Or
so even though all our families would know that if anything happened to either of us, we would want our partner to have everything, it wouldn't happen because that government will would fall in place, and that's not what's written down.
I think one of the most scary stroke unbelievable things that people realise under the rules of intestacy is there's absolutely no provision whatsoever for unmarried couples. It genuinely just doesn't cater for you. So if you're not married or in a civil partnership, there is zero provision.
And then it doesn't work for if you're married and you've got children from different relationships, because you say it just goes down the bloodline. And it doesn't. And I think a lot of people perhaps watching, if you are a single person on your own, you might think, well, I don't really need a will. I haven't got a partner, I haven't got children. But tell us, there's a story that will really make you realise, again, how important it is to have a legally binding
for
will,
everyone,
whatever situation you're in. Tell us about that gentleman. He was like a surgeon or a doctor or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a medical professional. He passed away suddenly and unexpectedly.
Quite young, wasn't he?
Yeah, certainly under 50, which I'm stressing is very young right now. But in all seriousness, he was a single gentleman. He'd never married, he'd never had children. But the backstory about when he passed away was when he was born, his father basically left his mum and was never heard from again. So he wasn't involved in this gentleman's life at all. No birthday cards, no contact, no nothing. So for all intents and purposes, he's left his wife and she's brought up 2 sons. And one of the sons has sadly passed away. He never made a will, and we'll never know exactly the reason why. But because he passed away without a will, he's died intestate. So he gets the government will. The first question, as we've just shown, asks, were you married or in a civil partnership? And the answer to that was no. The next question is, do you have children? The answer to that was no. The next question was, do you have parents? And the answer to that was yes. So his father, who basically walked out on him when he was born, inherited half of everything that he'd worked hard for.
That's awful, isn't it?
And they were estranged as well.
Yeah.
So his mum had to virtually find the father in a way.
No parents should have to deal with that, but you can only imagine how difficult that situation must have been as well. And again, when people hear this story or they see this story, they're like, that can't be true, or that's not right, or that's not fair. And again, it's nothing to do with fairness. That's what the law says. And that's why it's really important to make a will, because then you know that what you want to happen is going to happen, because it's your will. It's unique. There's only one like it, because there's only one like you, and then it deals with your family. The rules of intestacy we've just seen is generic. It's just a series of yes/no questions to ensure that there is something in place. And sadly, this happens quite a lot, that the wrong people, in inverted commas, end up inheriting, when everyone around the person that's passed away is going, that's not what they would have wanted. So for the sake of a quick phone call or a quick text, all of that can be avoided.
And it is that simple. The other great thing is your team. The customers are so passionate about the team, aren't they? We've got some great reviews we'll share with you in a moment.
And in the reviews, they don't mention Simpler Law as such. They'll mention the person they spoke to, really.
Yeah, they do. And I think that's the beauty of our service. It's, it might seem quite daunting or maybe a bit scary, unknown territory, if you like. But our team, they're fantastic. They're brilliant. They're so friendly.
You become friends, really.
Yeah, you do, throughout the entire thing. And when you contact us, you have a consultant, and then you stick with that consultant until the very end when you've received your documents.
That's brilliant, and that service that makes you relaxed, because it is something that you might be quite daunted about, isn't it?
I think if you're like me, I'm a big worrier. Mum's a big worrier. I'm always, if anything legal, I think, oh gosh, if there's lights flashing, there was a police flashing, coming down the road tonight. And I thought, oh my goodness, what did I do? And he was way back, and I hadn't done anything, but I automatically think I've done something wrong. And I thought, I'm going to do it wrong, I'm going to say the wrong thing. And at no point did I feel I couldn't ask a question. And no point did I not understand what was going on. Simpler Law make it so simple. And it makes you understand. And there's so much you just don't realise you can do with a will. And when you sit down with the team and you just sit down and chat like we're chatting, suddenly you think, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that. Gosh, would that have happened? And that was us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my, what do you mean? We've been together 35 years, but we wouldn't have been entitled.
You just have that
to anything.
assumption, don't you? Those misconceptions we talk about. The deals that Simpler Law offer us are excellent. It's really easy to get in touch. We should run you through those prices again.
Yeah, and it's affordable at full price. I thought it would be so expensive to get a will or to get lasting power of attorney, but actually it's worth every single penny of the full price prices. But we always have special offers, but we have an even better offer this morning. It is time limited. It's till close of business on Monday, and you can we'll tell you how to get in contact as well. But if you are thinking of going for the will normally £249. Our special price usually £124, but you have got 20% off, so £99 is your price this morning, and you can split that cost as well over 4 payments. So it works out, those 4 payments, £24.75.
That's brilliant.
How much do you spend on coffee a week? I mean, you spend that in an instant, don't you?
Easily.
Oh my goodness, we were just talking about
Price
prices.
of coffee, yeah.
Oh my word.
Price of everything.
And you've got a legally binding will. Lasting power of attorney, and we will go into a bit of detail about that as well if you're not quite sure what that is.
We are going to explain that in a couple of moments. At £349 is the suggested price, down to £239 on the offer price, but with that extra 20% off, this is why it's time to do it right now. £189 it comes down to, or £47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. The biggest value of all, though, remember, is if you go for the will and the lasting power of attorney, because that's the biggest saving. It should be almost £600. £598 comes down, well, on the offer price to £315, but with another 20% off, comes down to less than £250.
This is the best offer that we do, that 20% off, and you're splitting that cost over those 4 payments, making everything so affordable. And as long as you secure those deals this morning, you can choose whichever option you want to go for. You might think, well, actually, we just want to do the will. But as you watch the show and then you listen to Lasting Power of Attorney, you might think, oh my goodness, I wish I'd done the will and Lasting Power of Attorney. As long as you've got in contact and secured the prices, you can then choose which option to go for. And it's so easy to get in contact. You don't even need to speak to anybody this morning if you don't want to. You can jump on the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. If you want to jump onto the phones, the team are there until 3 a.m. and the phone number is 0333 600 2600. You might have a couple of questions. They can answer those. You don't need any information apart from the fact you want to write a will, you want to get these prices. And if you don't want to jump onto the phone, I bet you've got your phone, your mobile in your hand right now. You're multitasking, aren't you, whilst you're watching? Text the word will to 66777. That is always the busiest option. It's done. You've secured every price.
You are just taking that first step. That's the great thing, and you don't need any documentation. You don't need anything with you. We'll talk about the book that you get if you're one of the first 250 people to get in touch, What My Family Should Know, where you can keep all your important information, things like your insurance policies, your bank accounts, your passwords.
It's what
for your
everybody
computer.
will be hunting for when you do sadly pass, and it's all there in one book. And I think, again, it reminds you of things you don't think of, like passwords for tablets, because now it's not letters you're looking for, it's emails on tablets, or there might be vital information, but actually there might be personal things, there might be photographs or videos that are on your mum and dad's or your sister's or your brother's phone or tablet, and if you haven't got the passcode, there's no way you can get on to get that. So honestly, that book is absolutely brilliant, and the first 250 people only do get that, so it always does go. So please, that's another reason to get in contact right now.
You can go through our website if you so wish, shopontv.co.uk. You'll see the Simpler Law logo on the homepage. Click on there and it takes you straight through to those exclusive offers that you can see there. It also gives you all the contact details, but if you want to just fill in that form, very straightforward. You've secured the offers.
And these are great if you want to ring out of hours. You know, the team are there till 3 a.m, but perhaps over a weekend you can't get in contact. You can actually then just go onto the website, fill in that form, and you've secured that price, or it reminds you of the text number, and just text. Just make sure you secure that deal before close of business on Monday, and that's why we say do it now, because we do tend to forget, don't we? All of a sudden it'll be summer, then it'll be autumn, then it'll be Christmas, and you think, I still haven't done done the will. We're good at putting things
Yeah.
off or not getting round to doing things. So once you've got in contact, you've made that first step and you know you're going to get that will done.
And that's often the hardest thing to do, just getting the ball rolling, taking that first step. And it's so, so important for everyone to have a will. We are going to talk more about lasting power of attorney in a couple of moments for you, but secure those offers and take that first step.
Yeah, and don't panic. Perhaps you're going on holiday for a couple of weeks and you think, well, it's no good me doing it now, because as long as you secure those prices, when the team gets back to you, you can just say, well, actually, I'm really busy for 2 or 3 weeks. Could we speak, you know, going into whatever date is right and good for you? And they'll be like, yeah, they're there to help, and they're there to make things really easy and to make sure you get the will that you and your family deserve. Really is great to have your company this morning, and welcome to STV. We have got Simpler Law with us this morning, and it's all about writing a legally binding will. Because if you haven't written a will, and we hadn't written a will, did you know there is a will in place that falls into place automatically that's actually been written by the government?
Yeah, it's called the rules of intestacy, the government will, as they sometimes call it. And there has to be something in place if you haven't got a will. But why would you want that to fall in place when you can write your own wishes?
How can one will be right for absolutely everybody? It's not right for us because we're not married. It's not right for couples that, you know, perhaps you've remarried, perhaps you've been married a couple of times, perhaps you've got children from different families. It can pull families and tear families apart. It's not right if you're just a single person. What you want to happen isn't going to happen unless you've sat down and written a legally binding will. And Simpler Law, they make it so easy to do exactly that. It's a sit-down conversation. You don't even need to know any information, really. Sit down and have a chat with Simpler Law. They've got the questions, and in here you've got the answers. You know what you've worked so hard for. You know where it wants to go or where you don't want it to go. And never think you haven't got anything, because it might be your pets, it might be the children, it might be family heirlooms.
It could be just pieces of jewellery that you want to go to certain members of the family, because you can do so much with your will. It's not just about those monetary things, and we'll talk about that as we go through the show. We're joined in the studio with Ian and Georgia from Simpler Law. Again, it's great to have you here because you have all the knowledge that we talk about.
One of us does.
Depends on the time.
We can guess who.
Email in which one you think.
I think we all know. I think we all know.
But Georgia, you are, when it comes to wills and estate planning, that's exactly what Simpler Law are all about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are very proud of our service. So, you know, we call it the hand-holding service. So we'll guide you through from start to finish. You know, like you said, Hayley, you've got all the answers and we've got all the questions. And it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. It's just taking that first step.
You think it's going to be really daunting, and I know me and my mum, we did originally the lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law way before they came to work with us here on Shop on TV. We're the biggest worriers, you know, so it was a real big worry. We're going to do this
The build
meeting.
up to it, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm not going to know, I'm not going to understand, they're going to use long words. You made it so easy. And the lady that we sat down with very much became a friend, and at no point did I feel I couldn't ask something. And even after we'd spoken, I knew I could email and say, oh my goodness, I forgot to ask you this. You went at our pace. It was just so simple.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's something we pride ourselves on. And again, I think it's reassuring for clients, you know, you don't have to worry about it. You don't need anything. You just need yourself, maybe a cup of tea and a biscuit, just to get you through that consultation. But, you know, you might actually have fun along the way.
Yeah.
You might realise it's not as bad and as you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And whilst, yes, we might take you to a dark place for a moment or two, it's very brief. And again, the consultant is so friendly. Everything's explained. It's our job to understand the technical jargon, and it's just simplified for you so you know what you're doing and where you're at.
The other thing to point out is you don't have to go into the office.
No,
you do this sort of either a video call or a phone call, don't you?
Yeah, whichever's most convenient for you, and again, at a time that's convenient for you as well.
It's all around you. That's the other thing I loved about it. There's no pressure, there's no timeline. It's all about you, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very client-centred approach, and again, we're very, very proud of the service we've...
Well, you're very much award-winning, and I know you've got more awards that you're going to
this
year
evening,
as
I think
well.
there might be more awards.
We don't like to brag.
But I think that's why you are award winning. It's very much down to the team. It's what you've brought together. You do make it so pleasant and so easy.
Yeah.
And at no point do we feel, that I never felt at one moment, and I always feel a fool. I always think I've asked something daft, and you just put me so much at ease in an instant that it was a pleasure to do.
No, in fact, all our consultants are really highly trained, and this is all they do. So they know when they're speaking to somebody that it might be the first time, it might be the only time that they actually give instructions for a will. So in a non-patronising way, it is a hand-holding service because we understand that people might not have gone through this before. I think a really important thing as well to assure people is there's no risk to this, because if as you're going through the consultation with our consultant, you think this is not what Ian and Georgia said, this is horrible, I don't like it, this isn't going anywhere, this isn't as nice as I thought it was going to be or as straightforward as I thought it was going to be, just stop the consultation and say, I'll have my money back, please, I don't want to go any further. There's no risk to you. And even when you finish the consultation, you've got time after that in which you can change your mind. So, but you can only find this out if you do send us a text or you do pick up the phone. And I can't stress enough, what might not seem that big a deal to you is actually huge for your family. Because making a will means that it's your last act on planet Earth.
It's like your final gift to your family, really,
It's exactly what it is.
Because not having a will can be so upsetting. I saw actually, it was a couple of months ago, not someone I knew, but someone on Facebook had put on, oh my goodness, I think it was she'd then lost her brother, and she said it was the third family member that hadn't written a will. And she said, and she was saying, please write a will. You don't realise how distressing it is to lose someone and then
have
not
to deal
be
with all that.
a will in place.
I think the shock for people is obviously a bereavement's awful anyway, but then that can be compounded when they realise that because that person's passed away intestate, they may have said to family members, this is what I want to happen. And understandably, some family members will assume, yeah, that's okay, we can deal with that. But then they realise, actually, no, the law says something quite the opposite. A number of times we hear people say, well, it's okay, I've told our John what I want to happen, but John has to follow the law. He can't just follow what his parents said. But if his parents made a will and said, John's our executor, then John basically follows his parents' wishes, but it has to be in a legally binding document. So the reason we do these shows, we try and reach as many people as we can, say, listen, you do already have a will if you haven't made one for yourself. And there is no sort of grey area in this. There is no ifs, buts or maybes. When you pass away, you either pass away with a will that you've made that's yours, that's unique to you and your family, and you know what's going to happen, or you pass away with a government will. There's nothing in between that. So you pass away with your own will, or you pass away and the government will decides what happens. And that doesn't care about you because it can't, and it certainly doesn't care about your family because it can't. It's just this default position, this backstop, and that's when an awful time can be made so much worse. So to be really clear, a will doesn't make a loss any easier, but having a will, got a second.
We've got a friend in the studio tonight.
That's probably more intelligent than me, to be fair. But no, in all seriousness, when you make a will, you know for a fact then that what you want to happen is going to happen. And I always say this, that no one ever regrets making a will, because there's nothing to regret about making a will, but your family certainly may regret that you didn't, because if things go wrong, that's when it's like, oh, this is not what he wanted to happen. So please, if you're thinking about making a will, pick up the phone. Our consultants are there now. Our client care team's ready to take your call. 0333 600 2600. Or, as you said, if you're like most people now, even my tiny brain tries to look at my phone while I'm looking at the TV, just text the word to 66777. And that, genuinely, I think you said it earlier, Sean, is probably the hardest part of this process.
That first step,
is just getting in touch with us, because after that, you'll realise that everything that we said is true.
I think that first step we're always really rubbish at, and then it's such a relief when you've done that and you've got that will done. And we're the same with everything. We still need a whole carpet.
Don't bring up the carpet.
Still, and we've said so many. Oh, we'll get it done. We will definitely get it done. And it's just we don't do that first step. If we did that first step, we'd have had a carpet for years that would, you know, bounce up the stairs. And I think we're all the same with that. We put things off, and actually life gets in the way then, doesn't it? And if you get in contact right now, that's all you're doing. You don't need to speak to anybody. Get in contact right now, you've secured the prices. And there's so many ways of doing this. You can either jump onto the website, simplelaw.co.uk/shop on TV. That's, of course, going to allow you to get the prices we're talking about.
That'll take you straight through to those exclusive offers.
Time limited, remember.
Yeah, close of business Monday, remember.
Yeah,
so do it right now. And
if you don't want to go on the internet, jump on the phones. The team are there until 3 a.m. and so that's 0333 600 2600. So if you might have a couple of questions, but you don't need to know anything tonight apart from I want to do a will, I want to do a lasting power of attorney. But if you think, well, I don't want to talk to anybody, like we're just saying, text the word will to 66777. That's the hardest bit, and you've done it. And you know you're going to get that will sorted at a time that's convenient for you. So don't panic if you've got a really busy few weeks coming up. As long as you've secured those incredible prices today, when Simple Law get back into contact with you, you can say what date is convenient, and they will go along with you with a date that works, which is brilliant.
The whole process works around you. If you want to get in touch via our website, you can do that as well, shopontv.co.uk. You'll see there's a Simpler Law logo on there. Click on it and it takes you through to these exclusive offers that we've been talking about. When you scroll down, again, you can just fill in that form if you want to, but all the other ways to get in contact are right there. If you are initially going for the will and then you change your mind, you want to add in the lasting power of attorney, you've secured all these prices by getting in touch.
You can always change your mind, and it's really handy going via our website as well. The phone number's there, but then perhaps if it's out of hours and you think, well, I want to get in contact, I don't want to miss the deal, you can just fill in that form and press submit, and it's done. You know, or just text. I think texting is one of the easiest things. I do all the competitions like that. £760,000. Or was that today?
Nice.
Or was it tomorrow?
That'd be nice.
I don't know, but I never win those. But you are a winner, because what you're going to do is get that will written, get that lasting power of attorney done if you text the word will to 66777.
And remember, the first 250 people also receive this book.
That's another reason to do it right now, because these books always disappear. And this book, I think, I said originally we should have one from birth, but that's a little bit early. But from working, because there's so much information you wouldn't even, if someone passes, you'd be hunting for all this information, and it's all written. You've written it in this book.
This is one book where you have your life policies, your bank accounts, your passwords for your computers, your phones, everything in the one place. And there was a reason why this came about initially, wasn't there, Ian?
It was born out of our estate administration department, truthfully. Part of the job of an executor in a will is they have to gather, the person that's passed away, they have to gather their assets together and find any liabilities. So there's certain tools that as professionals we've got access to, so we can find things a little bit easier than lay people, if you like. But it's quite a big job, isn't it? You know, gathering everything together. And you don't always know what someone's got. In so much as what came out of this was quite staggering, is that it's believed in the UK that there's £5 billion of unclaimed pension pots.
5 billion.
5 billion.
Because people just don't find them.
And that should be with families, and it's just sat there.
Yeah, because someone might have worked at a company for 2 or 3 years and had a pension pot that sat there and all this kind of stuff. It's believed there's £2 billion of unclaimed life insurance policies, again, paid up insurance that hasn't been found, and about £850 million just sat in bank accounts. All of that money should be with your loved ones, but when it hasn't been found, and that's where this book was basically born from, is it just allows you to sit down and take stock. Making a will is a really selfless thing. It's quite cathartic as well, because you will definitely get something out of it. It's really selfless because you're doing it for the people that you leave behind. But sitting down and just taking stock of what you've got, you know, making a cuppa and sitting down and putting stuff in this book is also really quite selfless, especially with things today, as you've alluded to, like passwords for our digital devices. You know, I'm just about clinging on to that era where I remember the albums that sort of crinkled when you open it. The photos have gone a little bit yellow. You know, and you physically did have albums. Now, of course, everything's digital. But if you haven't got access to that, they can be lost. You know, so even things like that are really useful. So that's a really long-winded answer to your question, Sean. But yeah, it was born out of our estate administration department. I think it just means that nothing's going to get lost, nothing's going to get missed.
Saves that hunting for everything, because everything's in one place.
It's been received really well, and that's why we decided that we would also give these away free for the first 250 that secured the offers tonight.
And that's the other reason to get in touch right now. First 250 clients will get that book as part of the offer that we've got for you. Now, we've talked about wills. We're going to continue with wills, but we're also going to mention lasting power of attorney, because I think this is a term that lots of people have heard of, but they're not quite sure what it means.
Yeah, I think if you're like us, we heard of it. And, you know, you hear stories where it was too late, and it's a horrible story, and you think, oh my goodness. And that's why we did my mum's lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law before they came with us here on Shop on TV. But if you are watching, thinking, you know, I've seen it actually. It's been in the newspapers, magazines. There's been a lot.
There's been
on
a lot
press,
of TV coverage, yeah,
as well,
on the consumer programmes.
And it is something that I think is just as important as a will, and we're going to talk you through what it's all about and why it is so important. And
so, Georgia, for anyone at home who's heard of the term but they don't really know what it means, can you explain?
Yeah, of course. So a lasting power of attorney is, if I'm honest, it's just as important as a will. I think, like what you said, a will is more well known, and an LPA, whilst people have heard of the term, they don't necessarily know what it does or what it's for. But it's a document, a legal document that you create during your lifetime, and you use it during your lifetime as well. And you nominate people or a person that you trust implicitly to effectively step into your shoes and make day-to-day decisions in the event that you should lose capacity.
And what does that mean, losing capacity?
So losing capacity, I mean, when we talk about it, I think it's most associated with either older age or things such as dementia, that you lose capacity.
Okay.
But unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case, and it can happen at any point in your life.
Could be a tragic accident, couldn't it?
Yeah, or a serious illness, maybe. And again, whilst you don't want to sit there and create a doomsday scenario in your head, and you don't necessarily think about it day to day, it's important to kind of plan ahead, because it's better to have the document and not need it than
need it and not have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we did mums, it was a weight off our shoulders, and then we just completely forgotten about them. The only time I think about them is when we do the show.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important just to have it there just in case, because you just don't know what's around the corner, do you?
No, exactly. And again, with what I was saying a minute ago, a lot of people associate it with a certain age.
Yes, that was our fault.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Yes.
We waited till mum was, you know, in her later years, and we should all do them much earlier on.
Exactly, and I think, again, it's important to kind of plan ahead, because, say, for example, you do reach later years and something does happen, it's too late.
It's there and it's in place, isn't
Exactly.
it? It's that what-if document. That's the other great thing
And
about
there's
it.
two different types, isn't there? So I know I didn't realise, and again, this is why you talk to Simpler Law. You sit down and have a chat. And we spoke first of all about, you know, what we came to is property and affairs, you know, that with the financial side of things, which will see the details as what that will do for you. Because this is a situation that if something does happen to you and you can't look after yourself and your own money, someone can step, even though I would think, well, hang on, everybody knows I love my mum, I could do it for mum. Legally, I can't I? You know, I've got to be on that lasting power.
You have to have it.
Yeah, it's exactly the same with a will. It's got to be written down in a legally binding document. You know, I think a lot of us just assume that, oh, well, my family know that this person will take care of me, and they know what I like and how I like it.
It's my wife, but...
Exactly, but unfortunately, like, it's not the case, and it's important to have it written down and at the ready should you ever need it.
Well, if you've ever tried to speak to an institution or a company where you're not the account holder, we all know what happens straight away.
It just stops, doesn't it?
Sorry, you're not the account holder, I can't speak to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but my mum is... Sorry, I can't speak to you. Yeah, but... You know,
I had that again today, and they're just not interested unless the person is there.
It's another strange misconception, really, is there's quite a lot of people who do sort of presume that if their parents or their partner or their husband or wife are incapacitated, that suddenly that empowers them to step into the shoes automatically because of the relationship, when it's actually quite the opposite. You know, if you think about it, if you've got a separate account with your partner at the moment, can you go into their bank and access their account now whilst they're fit and well? And of course the answer is no.
No.
So if they are unfortunate, life throws them a curveball and they lose capacity, do you think you can go in and access it now? The answer is still no, and in fact that person's now classed as vulnerable, so they're even more protected. And that's why lasting power of attorney is so important, because you can make it today whilst you have capacity and say, if life throws me a curveball, I hope it doesn't, but if it does and I find myself in a position where I don't throw the quilt cover back on a certain morning, then I can nominate this person or these people to step in my shoes who I trust. And again, that's quite a selfless thing to do. You know that you're going to be cared for and looked after by people that you trust, but also you've made their life much easier without them actually knowing, because you've already given them that authority to step into your shoes. These documents do need to be registered with something called the Office of Public Guardian. They can charge a small fee, it can be free before it can be used, but that's a personal preference as to whether you register them straight away or whether you just keep them safe.
Yeah, we register them straight away, but that, like you say, it's entirely up to
The
you.
important thing is to actually have the documents in place and have them signed, dated and witnessed correctly. We help you with all of that, because that's the really important thing. So we even help with the validation of these documents. And then, I think it's what you said, Sean, they are a what-if document. You've dealt with the what-if then. So you put them away and you just hope that life doesn't throw you a curveball. And if you are unlucky, you did something brilliant. There's an inevitability to a will. We've yet to meet an immortal client. Yeah. We know that a will be read.
Used,
we know that a will's going to be read. The difference now is what happens between now and the will being read. And the lasting power of attorney can cover, it's planning for the worst and hoping for the best. Lasting power of attorney can cover that. And the only time to do it is now. You know, yesterday's gone, tomorrow never comes. You know, there's a danger that if you're listening to this now and you go to bed without sending the text, life will get in the way again. And as it does, you know, and you won't do it. But the best thing that you can do for yourself and for your family is to have this in place and then just hope that you never need to use it. Because again, you don't regret doing this. But again, your family might regret it if you didn't have them there. Yeah.
So just to reiterate, the property and affairs, the amount of things that you can do, it's all those financial things like pensions, benefits, allowances.
Because obviously the world keeps going around. There's going to be bills to pay. There's going to be pensions to claim. And this can't be done unless you've got lasting power of attorney and someone that's going to step into your shoes, which is what it says at the bottom. It might be that you need to buy or sell a house, actually, for someone going into care to pay for the care, but you wouldn't be able to do it unless you had that lasting power of attorney. So all of those things absolutely vital. And when we went to Simpler Law, we went for the property and affairs without realising, Georgia, that there was a second lasting power of attorney. And I was like to Mum, this is just or more important, I think, to me. And this was health and welfare. So I think this is a more personal one, but I think you'll have seen stories about this in the press. Explain this one to us, if you would, because I think that everybody should get this.
Yeah, of course. So again, it's in a similar fashion to the property and financial affairs. It's a document where you can nominate either the same person or a different person, and it allows them to make decisions in respect of, for example, where you live. So if you need to go into care, or alternatively, if they want to keep you at home and look after you, that document enables them to do so. So it's you know, important when it comes to those decisions, and it comes down to day-to-day decisions that we take for granted and you don't think about, such as
until it's taken away.
Exactly, like what to wear, you know, what to eat. And again, your family and your loved one know that, you know, what you like to eat, what you like to wear, how you like your hair done, if you like your nails painted.
My friend was in a terrible accident in her 40s, so this is why you really should think about lasting power of attorney, you know, right now, not thinking about waiting until you get old. And I know it's so important to her, she was vegetarian, so important to her, the clothes that she wore, that she could wear makeup. And she went into some homes, and some homes, you know, didn't want her to wear makeup and things, but that was, she would want to put her, you know, her makeup on, and you're sort of in control of that then, aren't you? Yeah,
and again, that document, much like the will, it allows you to retain that control, you know, even in really difficult periods of time, or in the instance that you did lose capacity.
Yeah, it's so important.
Some of the things on there sound quite trivial when you say when you can, what you eat, what you wear, whether you put makeup on. But even things like you can determine who sees the person who's lost capacity, because someone might have made it very clear that they never want to see their sister again, or their ex-husband, or their ex-wife. And if they learn that they're incapacitated, then suddenly they can turn up at the institution where they are. And if you've given someone your voice,
they can
say, no, that's not happening. And all these things that sound quite trivial, if they're taken away from us, they're actually they're far from trivial.
Wasn't there a story, and it was, she was a nurse, wasn't she? And she wanted to bring her mum home for Christmas.
From the care home.
From the care home. And you might have seen it in the paper, and it ended up, they said that she'd kidnapped her, because...
It got really...
I laugh, because technically that's correct. Yeah. Because, you know, you can't just walk into a care home and just take a resident out of the care home. And even though it was a daughter and a nurse, and you think, well, logic, you know, it's just for one day, what harm? And probably there is no harm. But unfortunately, you know, you can't do that legally. You can't do that. Had she had a power of attorney, then she'd have had a voice. She could have made, you know, proper decisions and had the authority to do things like that. The internet is awash with these stories of people being effectively reported as
there was a programme
kidnapped.
on just recently, actually, and it was a lady, her husband went into hospital. He had a really rare brain problem, and he went in for surgery and things, and then he was super poorly, and they actually wouldn't let him go home because the wife didn't have lasting power of attorney.
And he couldn't decide.
They couldn't ask him if he wanted to go home to his wife. So she had to fight to get him home because she wanted him.
And again, it all sounds a little bit unfair and doesn't seem like quite right. But the professionals and the health carers can't assume that this is what that person would want. And unless you've given your voice to somebody, you lose your voice if you're incapacitated. So that's why lasting power of attorney is so important, so that your voice is passed on to someone that you trust, so that you know that you're going to be cared for the way that you want to be cared for, that your finances are going to be managed the way that you want to be, that you want them to be managed. And more importantly, I suppose, it means that your family don't have to go through the alternative, which we're going to get to, if you haven't got a lasting power of attorney, which is applying for something called a deputyship order through the court of protection, which frankly is just horrible.
And we're
so if someone was really, really poorly, that you needed to try and take control of whether it was the medical side or whether it was the financial side, you'd have to do this that we're looking at right now to get, for your loved one, for your husband, your wife, for your mum, for your dad, you'd have to go through the courts.
Yeah, and
you'd apply to the court.
Yeah, and the first thing to say about that is if you're incapacitated, you're hoping it's the person that you would have chosen yourself to go to the court as well. We're well aware of people getting a deputyship order when we've got conflicting instructions, so we know that. So basically, you're hoping that the right person turns up to the court of protection. But then out of their own pocket, they have to find those fees. So the application fee, as you can see, is £421. That's considerably more than just drafting one lasting power of attorney. The assessment fee to assess that you're, basically the court of protection is there to protect the vulnerable person, so they're assessing that you're the right person. So you have to pay an assessment fee, they may ask for a hearing, and they charge an annual supervision fee of at least £320. So if you do the application yourself and attend court yourself and deal with all the forms yourself...
So this is with no professional advice?
This is with no advice, it's with no professional help, then you're looking at circa £1,100 just to get going. The cost, though, isn't actually the worst thing, I don't think. It's the length of time that applications are taking to be heard and accepted or declined. And they're taking still up to a year before there's a response. So at a time when you should be concentrating on the loved one that you want to care for, you're having to deal with the court process.
You could have lost your loved one and
sadly,
wasted all that time trying to get control, and you should have been sat next to them.
Yeah. Well, at the risk of bringing everything down, we all know the stories, the awful stories of someone that's worked their entire life, they retire, and then the next day they have a heart attack. And unbelievably, the court of protection is a very similar thing. Is someone's granted a deputyship order, and then the person they've got it over passes away. So the time thing for me is as bad, if not worse, than the actual cost. But all of that can be avoided. Let's be honest, if we had a crystal ball and we knew our lives were going to be absolutely fine, you don't need any of this. And to be really clear, this isn't an insurance policy. I call it a what-if document. What if something does happen? But as human beings, we're quite strange creatures. We'll protect what's in front of us. You know, we'll insure our phones, we'll insure our tablets, we'll insure our boiler. You know, we'll certainly insure our pets. So we'll protect a lot of these things that we perceive as tangible, and we forget about each other. We forget to look after each other. So this is a what-if document that if life threw either of you a curveball, or if you're on your own, someone, you know, you've thrown a curveball, you couldn't make decisions for yourself, who would you want to step into your shoes? And don't leave it to chance. If you do a lasting power of attorney, you know that the person you trust or the people that you trust will step into your shoes and that you will have a voice. So make a lasting power of attorney and just hope that you never need to use it.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And it's so affordable.
I don't know why I was touching glass there, by the way, because it's not quite the same as touching wood, is it?
Not quite the same. Don't think that's the saying, but it's okay.
Got the idea.
The thought was there.
We knew what you were doing.
The thought was there.
So all you need to do is get in contact, of course, and get these fabulous prices. These prices is allowing you to get these things sorted. You can split the cost as well with 4 payments, and you're dealing with simpler law. you've got professionals on your side that are making everything so easy. So whatever you're looking at today, if you were listening to the will and you thought, yeah, I'm going to go for the will, or now you're thinking, oh, why didn't I do will and lasting power of attorney? As long as you get in contact, all these prices that we're going to show you right now, you have secured these deals. You just need to get in contact before close of business on Monday. So I would do it right now. If you were going to go for the will, a normal price, I thought a will would be so expensive, and actually at £249, to know exactly what you want to happen is going to happen. What you've worked so hard for is going to go to your loved ones. You at £249, I think that's a great price, but actually we always have a special. So £124 is our special normally, but you have got that extra 20% off. It is our favourite deal, under £100, and you can split the cost over those 4 payments. So £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments, and that is such a small amount.
Well, I think it's like you often say about the amount you spend on coffee over a week.
Or I popped into the shop with my mum today for my mum's shopping. I didn't need anything.
And what did you spend, darling?
50-something pounds. And
What did you bring home? Not a lot.
Very little.
So that's the point, the value there.
We spend that so...
When you equate it to other
and that's
things.
your will sorted. And then you saw the lasting power of attorney details as well. If you want to go for the lasting power of attorney, as we explained, that if you haven't got a will, there is a government will that falls in place. If you haven't got lasting power of attorney, you just saw the expense that it would be to try and look after that loved one that is poorly. And you can see there, price-wise, normally £349. Our regular sort of offer on Shop on TV is £239, but you have got that extra 20% off, so £189, which again you're able to split over those 4 payments. So £47.25 is the first of those 4 payments.
The biggest value of all, though, is if you go for that combination, the will and lasting power of attorney, it should be almost £600, £598 on the suggested retail price. The offer price should be £315, but the extra 20% brings that right down to £249. So the value there is the best value of everything that we've got for you.
Saving more than you're spending.
Yeah, way more.
And if you've already got in contact and you're thinking, oh goodness, I only asked about wills, and now you've just heard about about lasting power of attorney and thinking, wish I'd done both, that's fine. As long as you get in contact, you will have secured any of those prices. So if when you speak to the team, you say, well, actually, I did just ask about wills, can I add in the lasting power of attorney? They'll allow you to do that. Do it right now, though. Get in contact, because first of all, you can be one of the first 250 people to get a fabulous book that holds all that vital information that your family needs when you pass. This book, there's 250 when we do a show that are given complimentary. So if you get in contact now, you've got the chance of getting one. They always disappear.
And that's a book where you record all the essential things like your household utilities, your bills, your pensions, but also things like digital accounts, your passwords for your iPad, for your laptop, for your phone.
And they are vital. We not that long ago, a family member, an in-law, his father passed, and really not expected at all, from nowhere. And they really needed to get onto his tablet, because it could be personal things you're looking for, but it was emails they needed.
A lot of things are paperless now, aren't they? You don't get paper copies.
Nobody knew no one knew his passcode. And they were in a real situation. It was only by chance. They tried to speak away from the grandchildren, and the grandson walked past and he sort of heard what was said, and he was like, I know Grandad's password. I played games on his tablet, and they managed to get. But you can't get that information. You can't find a password. It's all in that book. It just makes it so easy.
You can have it all in that one place, so you're not searching around for it. So if you want to get in touch, it's really simple and straightforward. You can go directly to Simpler Law, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the team in the call centre. They're there right through until 3 a.m. So if you want to speak to someone, 0333 600 2600. But the easiest way, we always say, and this is always the busiest way on these shows, is to text the word will to 66777.
Might be you don't want to speak to anybody. We're like that. I'm like, you answer the door, you answer the phone. We talk all day. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Don't want to talk to each other.
You speak to them. And all you need to do, text will. That's it. And I do all the competitions like that. And this isn't a competition, but you are going to be the winner, because what you've done is you've secured those prizes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that first step we put off And I don't know why life takes over. We're so busy, we're so timeful.
Everybody is so timeful.
If you don't do it now, if you're like me, if I don't write it down, it's never going to happen. If you don't do it right now, you know that it'll be summer before you know it, and then you'll have had your summer holiday, and then before it'll be autumn. Then you'll be shopping for Christmas, and you still haven't got that will done. And one day, sadly, it will be just too late. So get it done. That first step is a weight off your shoulders, because you're quite proud of yourself. I've done it. I've made that.
Yeah.
And don't panic if you're really busy for the next 3 weeks or something. When the team get back to you, just say, I'm really sorry, I'm away for 2 weeks, or I actually can't sit down and do it until this sort of date. Simpler Law will work around you. As long as you secure those prices right now, you can then sort out the time that's convenient to sit down and chat about it. And that's all you need to do, is sit down and chat about it. No big you've got all the answers. You don't need to find things out before you talk to Simple Law. They've got all the questions, and they virtually just talk the information out of you. They're very clever.
It is a time-limited offer, so do it right now, because close of business Monday, it's limited until then. We talk about the people who work with Simpler Law and the consultants. We've got some great reviews we just want to share with you. This one, first of all, from Alan. Our consultant, Charlotte, explained everything in clear, unambiguous terms. Pricing was made clear and cooling off period was explained. The consultant was very pleasant and caring and sensitive to our needs. All necessarily legal terms were explained in plain and simple English. Thank you, Alan, for that one. This one from Alison. Great service, extremely helpful and very informative. And Morgan, who managed my will, was extremely pleasant and helpful and made the whole procedure very easy and very clear for me to understand. Couldn't have asked for better. A really nice man. This is what we talk about. It's always the people who get mentioned, the consultants.
And they're very good as well at sussing you out. Yeah. My mum, you have to talk to my mum right, and instantly just knew
put her
how
at
to,
ease.
put mum at ease, made her relaxed, made her feel comfortable, and that's really important.
This one, I think, could be a lot of people. I'd been putting off doing a will because I thought it would be complicated and take ages, but it was so easy, and now I don't have to think about it anymore. I can also call if I need to change anything. All great points from the reviews there. And if you have just joined us, we are going to start right from the beginning. We're working directly with Simpler Law, and we're bringing you wills and lasting powers of attorney. But we'll go back to wills to start with.
Yeah, because have you written a will? Have you written a legally binding will? So have you not got a will? Well, you have. I'm really sorry, but if you haven't written, and we didn't know this, if you haven't written a legally binding will, there is a government will, a will that's been written by the government for you that falls into place. And sadly, it's not what you would want to happen. Definitely not right for us. We're not married, but we've been together 35 years, and all our family know what's mine is Sean's, what's Sean's is mine. But sadly, if we passed without a will, that government will would fall in place, and that isn't what would happen, even though we'd been together probably longer than a lot of people are married.
Lots of people have lots of misconceptions when it comes to things like that.
And even if you are married, don't think, well, that's because you're not married. If you're married and you've got children perhaps from previous relationships, you all live as one big family, and you're not stepsisters and stepbrothers, they're not stepchildren, you're one big fabulous family. Again, that government will not care about that. And then it's something which we'll explain as we go along. It goes down the bloodline, so it all depends who passes first to which children inherit. And that's why you often hear about family breakup, don't you? And when there hasn't been a will written. It's a time when people are so emotional and upset as it is. If there's not a will in place, it can make things so much harder. It really is so important you write a will.
And it's so important that you do it with experts in the field so that you do it right, because it's so easy to do it wrong, as we'll explain.
And there's so much you don't realise. And when we sat down, I was like, oh my goodness, I could put that in a will. I hadn't even thought about. I didn't know that was going to happen. So honestly, and perhaps you've got an old will and you're thinking, perhaps I should look at updating. Please do, because so many things have changed as well. And you think, oh my goodness, I didn't realise that was different now, and that's really old. Honestly, get into contact, and you've got fabulous prices throughout the whole of this morning, and those will be secure. Those prices are there until Monday at close of business, but get in contact right now so you can secure those deals. But we should talk to the team.
Yeah, joining us from Simple Law, Ian and Georgia are with us here in the studio to explain, I think, to everyone how important it is, isn't it, Ian, for everyone to have a will?
If you want your last act to be on planet Earth, your act, then it absolutely is. And if you've worked hard for everything you've got and you know where you want it to go, then making a will is incredibly important, because without making a will, as you quite rightly said, means that you pass away and the government have already designed one for you. When I say the government, it was actually created in 1925. It's called the Rules of Intestacy, and that's the backstop. So that exists for every single adult who doesn't make a will. And
so that's what happens, it falls into place.
Yeah, and I genuinely don't think that's widely known.
No. And even if you've told all the family what you want to happen, it's not going to happen, because that government will, unless you've got a legally binding will, it goes to that government will.
Yeah, I've been involved in writing wills for over a quarter of a century, and I still don't think the information is out there.
No,
people are still shocked when a loved one passes away and they say, that's not what Dad wanted, that's not what Mum wanted. And it's heartbreaking, because we know it can be fixed in a 15-minute phone call, a 30-minute phone call. We know it can be fixed for not a lot of money and not a lot of time. And people understandably do put off making a will because, you know, we're all going to live forever. That's first and foremost. Or they think it's going to be really expensive. Well, as we've just, you know, the offers that we do on this show is to get rid of that as an obstacle. I did buy my usual coffee from a certain chain.
For one coffee, what did you pay?
It was over £6. So for a coffee a week,
for one coffee.
I know, it's ridiculous. But this is from the same person who, you know, won't buy a jar of coffee unless it's on offer. We can be illogical creatures, can't we?
Yes, definitely.
I won't speak for all humanity, but I certainly can be. But look, the cost of a will doesn't have to be prohibitive, and the value that you can get from it is only known when you actually pass away.
Yeah.
But you said something earlier as well, Hayley, about breakup in families. Actually, one of the single biggest reasons for a breakup in a family relationship is someone who passes away without a will, because emotions are high, money's on the table, and everyone has their own opinion or believes they know what should happen. But whether you think you know what should happen, or you've even been told by the person that passed away what they would want to happen, all of that sadly is irrelevant, because you have to follow the law, and the law says you've now got to follow the rules of intestacy. So coming back right to your original question, Sean, yes, everyone should have a will, because then you're guaranteeing that your last act on planet Earth is yours.
Yeah.
You've worked hard for everything. Please make sure that it's going to go to where you want it to go to.
It's your
and possibly
wishes.
not go to the people you don't want it.
Yeah, those fridge magnets that say friends of the family to choose for yourself exist for a reason. You know, blood isn't always thicker than water. It's not unusual for our clients to say, I want to make sure that this person doesn't inherit. Sometimes it's because there has been there's been an argument or a break in communication, break in relationship, whatever. Sometimes it's a positive thing because they might have helped one of the children out financially whilst they were alive, and said they had enough while I was alive, so we don't want them to have any more because we now want to
have that.
But this is the beauty of when you speak to us, because every will that we write, and we've written over 300,000, every single one, understandably, is unique. It's not our will.
Without a doubt,
it's yours.
Completely personal.
The rules of intestacy is identical every single time. So how can that possibly work for millions of adults? And there is no grey area here. We need to be clear about this. If you've been told that everything's going to be okay, ask yourself who's told you that. If you think it's going to be okay, ask yourself who's giving you that thought.
Well, we thought we were common law husband and wife.
We hear that still.
There's nothing.
There's no such thing.
There's no such thing, is there?
You're either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not. In the same way that you either pass away with your own will, or you don't. And if you don't, you get the government will. And
with a will, you can do so much, because I think lots of people will think it's financial. You think, well, I haven't got a great deal. But actually, when you sit down and think, you probably own your house, you own your car. But actually, there's so much more. I didn't realise how much you could put into a will.
It's entirely personal. I mean, it's not an exhaustive list that's on the screen there. But if we run through it really quickly, choosing your own executors mean that you decide who actually carries out your wishes. So it's usually, your partner, your children, but you make that decision. When it says you decide who inherits from your estate, that's the whole point of making a will. You take yourself out of the rules of intestacy.
Right.
And if you've got young children, You can even specify what age your children inherit. You can even stagger how they receive their inheritance. And we know for a fact, not anecdotally, we know for a fact that the vast majority of our parents don't want the kids to inherit when they're 18. If, God forbid, they passed away before they saw the children growing up, they want them to be a little bit older, a little bit more mature when they come into that money. Staying with children, you can nominate guardians as well. You can pass on your parental responsibility through a will.
And this is a horrible thing, I think, to think about, but oh my goodness, so important, because if awfully both parents passed and they were young children, that could be a family upset, because both grandparents could come forward, both sisters or sisters from either side of the family.
Yeah.
And everybody, and who's entitled to look after the children?
The worst thing that happens there is that someone that's never met you, someone that's never met your children, someone that's never met either set of grandparents or sisters or brothers, whoever it is who's actually, arguing about guardianship, if you like, they're the ones that are going to make the decision, someone that doesn't know you. Whereas you as a parent probably do have a preference.
Yeah.
You probably do know.
Might not be a family member, it might be a best friend that you know.
Exactly, it's usually someone a similar age with similar values, etc. And understandably, it can be grandparents as well, if they're capable.
Yes.
But again, it's a selfless thing. Making a will is really selfless, but you will get something out of it. The interesting thing for me is at the end of every consultation, all our clients say virtually the same thing. I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
Because they feel like a weight's lifted, sometimes a massive weight's lifted that they didn't even know existed. But they know at the end of the consultation they've done something brilliant for themselves and for the family. And I know I say this a lot, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. There's nothing to regret in making a will. You just don't regret making a will. I regret the mullet I had when I was 18. But you can't regret making a will.
No.
But in all seriousness, your family might regret that you didn't, because that's when it can go wrong. If you made a will, you just put it away and you get on with your life knowing that you've done something amazing. If you don't make a will, you're hoping that the rules have been tested to do what you want it to do. But how can they? Because they don't know you and they don't know your family. Frankly, the rules have been tested, don't care about any of us. It's just a backstop. It's a default position to make sure there is something in place for all those people who haven't made a will.
Because you do think that's so wrong, but there has to be something that falls into place. Otherwise, everybody would be fighting.
It'd be anarchy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But like, how would anything get done? Everyone would just argue forever, especially when money's involved. Without casting aspersions, emotions are high because you've lost a loved one, and then you throw money on the table, and there's no rules on how to deal with it.
And that loved one, if they were looking down, and obviously I don't know what happens when you pass, but looking down on the family completely falling out because perhaps they'd said, I want this to happen, and then the government will falls into place, and that's not happening at all.
Well, different family members having different opinions.
We had two brothers.
I was just remembering.
Absolutely, they clearly both devastated, lost the mother, and they were both adamant about what music was to be played at the funeral. And we were storing the will, and they phoned. And we'd had both phone in, and they were explaining they were both very angry and using us in the middle. And it's just because emotions are high. And it shouldn't be amusing, but it's kind of amusing. They were both wrong.
Because she'd written it in the will, hadn't she?
She'd specified exactly what she wanted to happen in the will, and she'd also left a letter of wishes as well. Because she'd planned ahead, she did something really selfless. What I'm hoping happened there is really nice, is that neither of them were right. So they'll just shrug the shoulders. But what a brilliant thing that was. So that argument was just quashed.
Put things like that in the will, and I think that's really important, because I think we're a bit rubbish about talking about death.
It's personal.
Or asking, do you want to be buried or cremated? Whereas it can all
put all
be
that in
put
there.
in the
You
will.
can take that away. Yes. So, look, you don't have to.
No.
Some clients go, I'll leave it to my children. Some are very specific.
Yeah.
Some have
it's entirely up to you, isn't it?
We've had some absolute corkers. We've had, when the curtain closes at the crematorium, I'd like them to play Firestarter by Prodigy. And you're like, we've had someone say, I want The Wicked Witch is Dead to be played. I'm like,
oh, bless.
That's personal. Those are people who are obviously quirky and funny. The ones that have seriously thought about obviously document. I'm not saying they weren't serious, but this is the whole point.
It's
yours.
Yeah.
When we saw that list earlier about what you can do with a will, the thing to take away from it is you choose, you choose, you choose.
It's you.
The government will gives no choice to anybody. It just distributes according to your marital status and how your family's made up.
And I don't see that it, you can't. You look at the government will and you think, well, how can that work for absolutely everybody? And in my mind, you just think, well, it doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't work for us because we're not married, and obviously that's you know, perhaps you might think, well, that's your silly fault, you should be married. But we've been together 35 years, so longer than some marriages. So all my family know what's mine is Sean's, and Sean's family the same know what Sean's is mine. But the government will, on that first question, are you married? That's not what would happen. But actually, even if you are married, it doesn't work instantly for you either.
And you totally understand that if you're married, you'd automatically think that you're secure in your marriage and that you have got full provision. The reality is, you're not even guaranteed to inherit everything from each other. There's a limit within the rules of intestacy of how much you can actually automatically get from each other. So that's the first problem.
Right.
The second problem today is it's not unusual for us. In fact, it's quite normal for us to be speaking to people who are married that may be on their second marriage, may even be on the third. But it's not unusual for us to speak to people who are on a second marriage, and also they may have children from previous relationships. So effectively, whilst they see themselves as a dynamic family, as a single family, and quite rightly, the law actually sees two separate bloodlines. Right. And by that I mean, forgive the finger puppets, but if you've got Mr. and Mrs. and they've both got a child from a previous relationship, if Mr. passed away first, and under the rules of intestacy, everything did get left to his wife, when his wife then passes away, they might have both reasonably thought that both their children are going to inherit.
Well, you would, yeah.
Yeah, and understandably so, but in reality, the law only sends it down her bloodline to her child. So the first person that passes away, the first parent that passes away in that situation, unintentionally has disinherited their children.
Gosh.
So that's why it's really important to make a will, because you get rid of the rules of intestacy and you can say that after we've both passed away, we want the children to inherit equally, or whatever it is you do want, because again, it's your will. You tell us, we don't tell you. But you have to contact us so that you can tell us.
I just thought of another story, and this one blew my mind, because this was a lady, she was in a relationship, she was living with the guy, and they'd been together for years, and she came to do her will without realising, when she sat down and chatted, which is what you do, you sit down and chat, she was still married. And she had no idea that though she'd been with her new partner for much longer than she'd been with her husband, because she hadn't divorced, had she passed, her partner would have got nothing, and it would have gone to her, well, he wasn't her ex-husband, but her husband that she hadn't been with for years.
It's fair to say there was a bit of mini panic setting.
I bet.
Because, you know, we understandably are so, you know, married, single, widowed, divorced. Well, I've been with this gentleman, you know, for 10 years longer than I was married. Oh, so you divorced? Oh, no, we never got divorced. And we're like, OK.
Oh, gosh.
So then we're like, right, we really need to make a move on this will then, because at the moment, if you'd passed away yesterday, your husband will get everything. And she's like, no, that's wrong, because we're separated. But you're still married.
Yeah.
So you're either married or you're not, and she was still married. I think it transpired as well that the way that they own their property, if she'd passed away, everything was going to go to her husband. So we had to do quite a bit. That's why it's important to pick up the phone and speak to a professional, because that we were able to fix quite simply, but only because she got in touch with us. So horrible things are happening all the time unintentionally, because people haven't got around to putting plans in place. It's always something we're going to do. Please don't let it be something you're going to do. Just pick up the phone tonight, speak to our client care team. They're at the office now, 0333 600 2600. Or if you don't want to speak to anybody, and I totally get that at this time of the morning, but if you don't want to speak to anybody, just text the word will to 66777. For me, that is the hardest part of actually getting a will, is making the decision, I'm going to do it today. I'm actually going to take that first step. Because once you've spoken to us, you realise that everything that we say on this show is true. Our consultants are lovely, our consultants are highly trained, and you will actually, at the end of it, be glad that you did it. And if you're not, just say, that wasn't for me, I'll have my money back. That very, very rarely happens.
And whatever situation you're in, you might think, oh, it's too complicated. We've got dear friends, and we're terrible now. We sit down to dinner and we're like, have you got
We're quite preachy.
Because now we've learned it's so important that you have a will. And we've got friends that have been together like us for years, hadn't got a will.
Not married.
Not married, and they're like, and it was, you know, quite complicated. They're like, it's just too complicated.
Well, they said it was
We're never going to, you know, what we want to have, it's just too, and we were like, it's never going to be, and it's never going to be too complicated. And we got them in touch with you, and it wasn't too complicated, was it?
No.
It was different, but not...
Every case is different.
Of course it is,
I think you know, the client care team are brilliant, and I think the reason that the job is fresh for them, is every single client's different.
Yeah.
So even though we're writing wills every single day, it's unique every single time, and every situation comes up. And yeah, I think I mentioned earlier that sometimes we draw a breath when a client says, "Oh, you'll love me because it's dead straightforward." It's like, okay, strap in.
And it's not.
There we go.
And then, as you said, your friends, understandably, yeah, it was a little bit off centre, but it certainly wasn't anything that we couldn't deal with.
No.
The whole point is, we know all the questions to ask, and we have all the questions. You, as our client, have all the answers because it's your will, it's your family, it's your estate, it's what you've worked hard for. You tell us what you want to happen, and we make it happen. It's that simple. But we can only do that if you get in touch with us.
And we should show you how easy it is to get in touch. Several different ways. It's completely up to you. If you don't want to speak to anyone, you don't have to. You can go straight to the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the team, as Ian was saying. They are there in the call centre. But don't think you need anything with you. You don't need any documents.
Yeah.
It's just a case of securing the offers.
You might think, oh, I
now.
need to find out loads of information.
Nope.
And you don't. You just need to get in contact and secure the deal. So jump onto the phones. They're there till 3 a.m. and that is 0333 600 2600. Or one of the easiest ways, and we always have virtually the phone's probably in your hand, isn't it? Your mobile's right there, even though you're watching TV. Just text the word will to 66777. You've done it. And I think that is one of the easiest and best ways to get in contact, because sometimes that first step is the biggest thing. But we're great at texting. I enter every competition with a text, and you're not entering a competition, but really you are winning because you've taken that first step to make sure that you are going to get that will done, you are going to get that lasting power of attorney done. And whatever you're going for, take a look at the prices, because our prices this morning are incredible, but they are time limited. You've only got these deals up until close of business on Monday. I thought writing wills would be super expensive, and actually,
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that puts people off. They think it's going to cost them a fortune. Simpler Law make it so affordable, and you are working directly with experts when it comes to this field of estate planning. So if you want to write your will, it should be the usual price of £249.
which I think is worth
a
every
great
single
price.
penny. If
Great
what you've
price.
worked so hard for, what you want to happen is going to happen. Remember, if you haven't written a legally binding will, the government will fall in place. The government has written a will that will fall in place if you haven't written one. And honestly, you do not want that to happen. It's 100 years old, and it just doesn't. It's not going to work for anybody. It works because that's what's going to happen, but it's not going to be what you want. Now, remember, price-wise, usually we have a great price of 124, but you have got the 20% off deal, which we love, and it's under £100, £99. Can't guarantee you'll have this price always when we do shows, so grab it whilst you have got that 20% off and split that cost with those 4 payments. So £24.75 over those 4 payments really is such a little cost. I bet you spend that easily on coffee.
It's that one little trip
anything
at
now.
lunchtime into the supermarket. Places where you can't get lunch for that now. It's absolutely bonkers. But everything is so affordable with Simpler Law. Now, if you do want to go for lasting power of attorney, and we will talk about that again in a few moments, £349 is the suggested price. The offer was going to be £239, but with another 20% off, that comes down to £189. And again, 4 interest-free payments, £47.25 on your first of 4 payments there if you want to go for lasting power of attorney. Again, when you look at that kind of price, £47.25, we can't even get a takeaway for 2 of us for that kind of price.
No, and again, that's your lasting power of attorney, which we will go back into detail about that. Now, you might be getting in contact thinking, I need a will, and then as you watch the show a little bit more, you'll think, oh gosh, that will and lasting power of attorney was such a good deal. Why didn't I ask for that? As long as you get in contact, you are securing all these deals. So if you change your mind and you want to add in the lasting power of attorney, you can get the price that you see on your screen. And you can see there that it should be, well, virtually £600 is the regular price for the will and lasting power of attorney. Our regular price when we do a show, £315, but you've got that extra 20% off, so it goes down to £249. And then again, you can split that cost. So then it is £62.25. That's the first of those 4 payments. Now, one of the reasons to get in contact right now is so you don't forget. Tomorrow, life will just get in the way, and before we know it, you'll be on your summer holidays, it'll be autumn, we'll be back buying Christmas presents, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I still haven't got my will done. We're terrible for that. Another year's gone and you didn't get it done. So get in contact so you know you've secured those prices and you're going to get it done. But actually, the first 250 people get this brilliant book. You can buy them, they're £25, but you don't want to do that. The first 200 people, you'll get these complimentary. And it's a book I think everybody should have.
It's called What My Family Should Know. Basically, it's one place where everything that you look for when someone passes, it's all in the one place. Things like insurance policies, bank account details, but things like your digital accounts and passwords for things like your phones, your computers, your laptops. Everything secured in one place so you're not hunting around trying to find it. First 250 people who go for the offers will receive that as a complimentary gift, and like Hayley said, it's worth £25. You'll find that invaluable.
And your passwords for your phone and tablet could be vital, because so much now is digital. That it might be emails that they're looking for, information on emails, or actually it might be personal things like photographs and videos that would be lost if you didn't have that information. And it's all in that book. So do please get in contact. And you know, it's so easy to get in contact. If you don't want to speak to anybody, you can text, you can jump onto the phones, the team are there until 3 a.m, or you can jump onto the website. So take a little look, whichever option is best for you. They're all there. simplelaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Go via the website and you can fill in an easy form, and that's it, you've secured the prices. Or jump onto the phones. Honestly, yeah, the team are there till 3 a.m. and back on business hours as well. But do it right now. So that's 0333 600 2600. But texting is always the busiest and is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, it's just texting the word will, whether you want a will or lasting power of attorney. That's WILL to 66777. If you want to go through our website, shopontv.co.uk, you can do that as well. When you go onto our website, just click on the Simpler Law logo and it takes you through to those exclusive deals we've been talking about. All the ways to get in touch, or you can just fill in that form that you see just there. It's that simple.
And it's that easy. And if you are trying to get in contact out of hours and you think, I was going to ring, your form's there, fill your form in and submit. But remember, texting is one of the easiest ways, but you've got every option. Just do it, and do it right now, because we do tend to forget. Or we try not to forget. I try and write things down, then I forget the list, and then I've forgotten what did I write on the list. But what you do if you get in contact is you've taken that first step. So you know you are going to get the will done. You are going to get the lasting power of attorney done.
I love what Ian always says, life gets in the way. It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're all so busy, we're all so time poor.
I've got no time to go to the gym. No time at all. I can watch a couple of episodes of my favourite programme and doom scroll for a little while, but I've got no time to go to the gym. So this is a really important thing that you can make time for if you want to. And you're right, life does get in the way. And look, let's be really blunt, it's not the first thing you think about spending money on. It's like, it's not something that you think to get excited about. Oh, I'm going to write a will. It's very rare that clients join a consultation with, yay, today's will writing day.
Yeah.
But interestingly, at the end of the consultation, it's not quite that, but at the end of it, when they've been through the process, every single client says virtually the same thing. I'm glad I did that. That was brilliant, thank you. And I don't know why they're thanking us, because it's our job, they've paid us to do it. But the reality is, we have all the questions, that our clients have all the answers. And so every time we produce a document, it's unique, it's bespoke to them. And more importantly, it's taken them away from the rules of intestacy. So their last act on planet Earth will be a gift to their family. It will be their document that's read. It'll be relevant to them, and it'll do what they want it to do. The alternative to that sometimes can be literally catastrophic.
Yeah, tell us about this, because anyone that's just joined us, if you haven't written a legally binding will and you're sat at home thinking, yeah, I must do a will because I haven't got one, sadly, we've all got a will, haven't we? And if we haven't written a legally binding will, there's what we call the government will, which will automatically fall in place, whether you've told the whole family what you want to happen or whether you've written it on a bit of paper that, you know. If you haven't got a legally binding will, the government will happen, won't it?
It exists for every adult, basically. So in 1925, a piece of legislation was created called the Rules of Intestacy. That's what we call the government will. It's been tweaked and changed ever so slightly over the last 101 years, but not very much. And obviously in 1925, the
Life was very different.
The makeup of society and the family dynamic, of course, was very, very different. But the reason it exists is there has to be a backstop, there has to be a default position, if you like, that if someone does pass away and they haven't got a will, what will happen? Well, what will happen is they're said to have died intestate, and that's when this set of rules come in, which is a series of yes or no questions that determines where everything that you've worked hard for, your estate, it determines where that goes. And so that default position is there as a backstop. It's not intended to be how your estate's distributed, because it's hoped that you'll make your own will, but of course not everyone gets around to it, and that's why we do these shows, because unfortunately the rules of intestacy, there's only four of us at this table, but all our situations are different, and yet we'd all get the same will. In fact, we've all got the same will if we don't make our own, and that's why it's really important to make your own will. Not just because it will do what you want it to do, but because it'll stop what is potentially a catastrophe. Because the way that society is today is far different to where it was 100 years ago, and what we class as a family now can just be torn to shreds by the rules of intestacy, because there can be different bloodlines within one family. And the rules of intestacy is all about your marital status and bloodline. It doesn't care about you, it just cares about having an end goal. So please don't die intestate. Pick up the phone, speak to the client care team this morning, or send that text, because I promise you won't regret doing it.
So for us, because we're not married, on that first question, are you married, we would say no. So even though but we've been together 35 years.
Common law husband and wife, yeah.
Yeah, we've been together a long time, so as long as a marriage.
No,
but
not
that
interested.
government will would, even though all my family and Sean's family know what's mine is Sean's, what Sean is mine, that government will would say, no, you're not married,
Correct.
so you're not entitled to each other's.
The government will never ever fails, because even if you've not got
There's always an
family,
end point.
there's always a destination. Even it goes back to the Crown. So it will always deal with the person that's passed away. It will always find somewhere for that estate to go. When the question is asked of someone that's in an unmarried partners, unfortunately, they're the hardest done to, because the question you asked is there's no provision for unmarried partners. So if one of you passed away yesterday without a will, the question would be asked, are you married or in a civil partnership? The answer would have been no, and that would have been your partner discarded. And then it would turn to, right, do you have children? Do you have parents? Do you have brothers and sisters? It would all go down that person's bloodline,
right.
completely ignoring the person, as you just said, you've spent,
all your life with.
Yeah.
third of a century together.
Oh my goodness.
I thought I'd make that sense. Anyway,
Don't know
how's your
who's
stair
the
carpet going? I'm curious. Have you been waiting for a new stair carpet for as long as you've been together?
We're planning for the beginning of May.
Oh,
right,
don't
okay.
say it.
But we still haven't got in contact with anybody yet.
There's no chance of life getting in the way.
We haven't
and
even
we're in-
taken that first step that we talk about, which is so important.
We've
really
been
is.
talking about how we don't put things off, we just don't get around to doing things, and that's why we say get in contact right now, because that's that first step done, and you know you're going to get that will sorted. But you've got to understand, and we didn't understand just how important it is to have a will, and you don't know what's around the corner. If something had happened to either of us and we hadn't written a will, we wouldn't have been entitled to each other's money. We've lived together, we've got our own house together, and we've been together for 35 years. But it's still not easy if you are married. Being married, that government will isn't going to make everything perfect.
No,
is it?
in the same way there's absolutely zero provision for unmarried partners, there's only some provision for married couples. And I suppose it's even more understandable that a married couple would think, well, we'll be okay. But actually there's a limit to what automatically passes between spouses. And what can be even more complicated and devastating often is if you're on a second marriage and perhaps you've got children from previous relationships, because then it becomes a bit of a lottery as to whichever parent passes away first, they've unintentionally disinherited their child or their children. So forgive the stick fingers, but if this is Mr. and this is Mrs. and they've both got children from a previous relationship, so they've got separate bloodlines, if Mr. passed away first, for example, and everything went to Mrs., when Mrs. passes away, her estate goes down, her bloodlines, everything moves down to one bloodline.
No,
so Mr.'s children are disinherited
Nothing.
completely. And people go, no, that's not right. Or sometimes people will say things like, well, it's okay, because I'm sure the step-sisters, step-siblings would would, you know, look after each other. But that's a lot of pressure to put on someone. And we never really truly know what position someone's going to be in when they inherit. You never know what influence is going to come from their partner, the husband or the wife. And so all of that stress is avoidable by making a will.
And we're talking a lot about monetary things, which obviously is probably the main thing when we talk about houses and cars. But with a will, Georgia, you can do so much more, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think people are actually aware of how much you can put in a will.
Yeah.
But to name a few, as well as funeral wishes, it covers gifts to children, for example. So if you've got children under the age of 18, you can decide when you want them to inherit. It doesn't have to be 18. You know, and a lot of parents, I don't think they would necessarily think, oh, I think all this money at 18 is a great idea.
That might be a lot,
No,
Exactly, and it allows you to stagger it or do it in a way that you think's most beneficial for, say, that particular child. Guardianship, that's a really important one. You can actually donate your parental responsibility in a will if you do have children under the age of 18. And again, you can nominate somebody to that you know will take care of them or maybe raise them in a manner that you would wish them to be raised if you weren't there.
Because even if you've got godparents for your children, we thought, because we're godparents to so many children, we're like, we'll have to get flats, you know, we'll be looking after so many children. But that's not a legally binding, so the godparents can't automatically step in and look after the children.
It's another common misconception, is being a godparent, again, it doesn't actually cover it legally, it has to be listed in a legally binding will.
You always say about parents and guardians.
Yeah,
at
you'll
school,
know if you've
you?
got children in school, if you've got to give permission. There's only two people who can give permission, or two sets of people.
I can see the form,
parent stroke guardian. It doesn't say parent stroke godparent. It's parent or guardian. And you can pass on, as a parent, you've got something called parental responsibility, and that's what you can pass on through your will. And most parents, if they're pushed on it, will know it's an awful thing to think about. I've got two young boys, and it's an awful thing to think about. But me and my wife have obviously got a guardianship clause in our will, because we know where we would want our boys to go if, God forbid, we passed away before they were adults. And that gives us that peace of mind now. Touch wood, it won't happen, but we've planned for the worst. Plan for the worst and then hope for the best.
Again, and once you've done that sort of thing, you forget about it, don't you?
Of course you do, yeah.
And again, I think it's things we don't think about, and they're all things that you can put into a will. A will, I think you automatically think money and think, oh, I haven't got a great deal, but actually you have got so much, and there's so much that go into a will, and you don't need to know anything. You sit down, talk to Simple Law, and they talk you through. It's a sit-down conversation, and though you might at this minute in time think, I really don't know, I haven't got the answers, they'll ask the right questions and you will have the answers. And we should mention, because you might not have children, but pets we can mention in a will as well.
Pets are very important, aren't they?
Even if they've got children, sometimes. Right, I've dealt with the kids, now let's talk about the dog.
I bet, because the pets are such a big part of people's families.
Oh, they are, yeah. And again, you can nominate somebody to look after them. You can even donate a fund, or, you know, put a fund in your will for that particular pet in order to care for them as well.
Also things like charities as well, if you want to leave money to charities.
Gifts are really important, and, you know, there's a number of times where quite a common one is for mothers to leave jewellery to daughters.
Yes.
But if they've got more than one daughter, they'll often specify, you know, between a wedding ring or an engagement ring or an eternity ring. And again, you know deep down that that's stopping any ambiguity, and it's perhaps stopping any argument, because it's there in black and white. And it's an illegally binding document, and Mum said, I want my eldest daughter to have my wedding ring, my youngest daughter to have an engagement ring, for example. But yeah, gifts are brilliant. The strangest one I remember seeing is someone saying, I want to leave my Shaking Stevens memorabilia to my brother. And then he said, because he'll hate it.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
But that's the beauty. But the whole point of a will is it's your will. It's about you and what you want to happen. You know, and sometimes people might just say in passing, oh, when I pass away, I want you to have my watch, or I want you to have my car, or whatever, hoping that that's enough, or believing that's enough. And sadly, it's not. You know, what you own has to be passed on legally. That's either done through your will or it's done through the rules of intestacy. And if it's done through the rules of intestacy, it won't care about your family or your wishes, because it can't.
And there's no specifics there.
There's no specifics.
There was a gentleman, wasn't there, and he'd got a dear friend, and his friend that sort of looked after him. They'd looked after each other for forever, and he'd promised his home. When I go, the house is yours. And
They were like-
everybody in the
They
village...
were like Bert and Ernie.
Love it.
Everybody knew them. And yeah, this guy was single. He had no family, and he'd always said to Bob that, "Look, I'm going to leave the house to you." And everyone sort of knew and understood that. And sadly, he passed away. And it was only sort of later on that people were then sort of saying, "So what are you doing with the house?" And Bob said, "It's not coming to me." "Oh no, he's leaving your house." He said he never made a will. So he died intestate, and I think it ended up going to a second cousin who was in Canada or somewhere like that.
You
So
hear stories like that, don't you?
and again, and look, Bob wasn't bothered. He was more bothered that he'd lost his friend. He never, he wasn't banking on getting the house. But the fact of the matter is, the person who passed away,
Wanted
his
him.
wishes aren't being carried out now, because at no point did someone sort of say to him, you need a will. Or maybe he just thought that because everybody who knew him knew this is what...
That'll happen,
Yeah, and that is one of the common mistakes that people make is, well, I've told everybody. Well, you've got to give them the legal power to do it. You know, we live in a country of law. We have testamentary freedom in the UK, which means we can create our own will and say where we want something to go. But in order to do that, you have to do that. So please, if you've been thinking about this, there's probably a reason you're listening to me at this hour in the morning. Take this opportunity now, because you won't regret it. There's nothing to regret in making a will, and it's risk-free. If, as you're going through the consultation, you think, you know, this is nothing like what Ian and Georgia said it would be like. Sean and Hayley don't know what they're talking about. It's horrible, this situation. But if you genuinely don't like what you're hearing and you don't like the consultation, you just turn around and say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'll have my money back, please. There genuinely is no risk. And of course, that doesn't happen because you're giving us your instruction. This isn't our will, it's your will. We're just the people who can make it happen. But please, you've got to phone us or you've got to text us, because we can't help you unless you get in touch with us.
And Simple Law make it so easy as well. It is just a sit-down conversation like we're having right now, but what you've got to do is get in touch. The deals are phenomenal, but to secure those prices, you must get in contact before close of business on Monday. And it's entirely up to you. If you don't want to speak to anybody, you can just go onto the website, simplylaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Or right now, the team are there waiting to answer your calls. Perhaps you've got a couple of questions. They can answer a couple of questions, but you don't need any information. They're sat there they're there till 3 a.m. and all you need to do is jump on the phone and say, I want to secure the prices, please, for the will or the lasting power of attorney. And that's 0333 600 2600. But one of the easiest and always the busiest ways, because if anyone's like, we're often, I don't want to speak to anybody. We've spoken all day.
And you don't have to if you don't want to, because you can just text. If you've got your phone there with you right now, just text the word will, WILL, to 66777, and that's whether you want the will or the lasting power of attorney.
And that's made, sometimes the trickiest thing is to get in contact, isn't it? And texting makes it so easy. It's done. You've texted will, you press send, and you've secured all those
You've
prices.
taken that first step, you've started the process, and that's often the hardest thing, just getting that in
and it's
motion,
such a
the wheels
weight
in
off
motion.
your shoulders when you actually get it done. And even if you're busy for the next 3 weeks, don't worry. You're securing the prices right now, and then when the team get back in contact with you, just say, well, I'm really sorry, available to sit down and chat about this until, I don't know, 2 weeks on Thursday or whenever, and they'll make sure
It's
that
all
it's
at
the
your
right
pace,
time for you. So just make sure you secure the deal right now.
You can go through our website if you so wish, shopontv.co.uk, and when you go to our website, click on the Simpler Law logo, it takes you through to this exclusive page. There's all the exclusive offers. We're going to talk about lasting power of attorney in just a couple of moments. Just scroll down and you can see it's as simple as that. The form is very, very straightforward. If you want to get in touch in the other ways, they're on the page as well for you. But it's as simple as that. And like you were saying earlier, that's great if you're out of hours.
Yeah, if you were thinking, well, I'll ring up and then you're out of hours, just fill in that form and it's I can fill that form in. It's really easy, and I'm rubbish at tests, but it's just your name. It's really, and just submit. And again, you've secured those prices. Or text 66777, just text the word will. And what you've done, have a look at the prices, is you've made sure, not only have you got our fabulous shop on TV deal. You've got an extra 20% off, which we don't always have. It's the deal we love. So if you are looking at the will, and I always thought wills would be, thousands of pounds, so expensive. Actually, at full price for what you've worked so hard for, to know it's going to go to who you want it to go to. £249, I'd pay it time and time again. It's worth every single penny of that. But of course, we've got special offers. Normally, that would be £124, but with that extra 20% off, down to £99, and you can split that cost. So £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments, and that is such a small amount when you think about what we spend things on, how much you spend on a cup of coffee, and you've actually got that will written, and legally binding will written with a team that make it so easy, and honestly it is so easy to do and so affordable. But then we're going to go back to lasting power of attorney. We've got a great deal on that as well.
Oh, yeah, the suggested retail price there is £349. The offer would have been £239, but we've got that extra 20% discount, so it comes down to £189. And then with those 4 interest-free payments, £47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Best value of all, though, and the biggest saving is if you go for the will and lasting power of attorney, and that should be almost £600, £598, down to £315. Then if you go to the special offer, a further 20% off comes down to £249, and that's £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
Now, you might get in contact, and you might have already got in contact, and you think, oh, I want the will. And then as you watch a bit of the show, you've then listened to lasting power of attorney, which we're going to go back to, and you think, oh, gosh, why didn't I do the 2 deals together, the will and lasting power of attorney? As long as you've got in contact and you've secured the price, you can have whichever deal you want. So if you ask for will and now you want will and lasting power of attorney, they will honour that price. So you've secured those prices. They're all right there for you. Remember, the first 250 people as well that get in contact will get that fabulous book, and that book is worth £25, and that's what the family should know, and that makes life so easy. When you do pass, I mean, obviously it's horrendous, it's a horrible time, and your emotions are high, and then on top of that you've got to try and find information, and it's all, you've written it all in this book for your loved one. So your will is your last gift, but this book is also a last gift.
This is about having all the information that you need in one place. You're not hunting around the house trying to find it. So things like pensions, bank accounts, digital accounts, passwords for your phone, your tablet, all those essential things that you end up looking for can be all in that one place, because it's designed to have it all there for you. So first 250 people to secure the deals will also get that book.
And that always disappears, so that's another reason to do it right now. But if you are watching and you think, yeah, okay, will, I understand a will. Lasting power of attorney, I've heard of that. I'm not really sure what it is.
It has been featured on quite a lot of programmes, TV programmes recently as well. And I think that's because people don't exactly know what it is. So I'll get Georgia to explain. When it comes to lasting power of attorney, what does it mean?
So with a lasting power of attorney, it's a legal document which allows you to nominate somebody that you trust implicitly to effectively step into your shoes and make day-to-day decisions for you in the instance that you lose capacity.
And when it comes to losing capacity, what does that mean, Georgia?
So capacity, I think when we talk about capacity or the loss of capacity, we associate it with old age, perhaps dementia.
Okay.
However, you know, like with most things, that's not necessarily true. It can happen at any stage of your life. It could be down to a serious accident or maybe an injury where you could permanently or even temporarily lose capacity, and you would need a lasting power of attorney so somebody could step in and assist you with those day-to-day decisions.
Yeah, because awfully, though your world sort of has stopped, the world is carrying on
around
so
you,
there's still, and it's something we don't think about. There's still bills to be paid, or perhaps you know you're really poorly and your family need to put you into a home, but they need to sell your house to do. Though I always say, and I always thought, you know, everybody knows I've got my mum's best interest at heart. I would look after mum. Or, you know, you're married. Of course I would step into my partner's shoes, but legally,
It's not the case, is it?
You're not allowed, are you?
No, I think, you know, a lot of people assume that, everyone knows that so-and-so would step in and take, my daughter would step in and take care of me. But when you're dealing with an institution, unless you are the account holder, they won't speak to you.
So it's, for an example, if you rang the bank, the first question they say is that, isn't it? Are you the account holder?
Yep.
You say no, well, it stops there, doesn't it?
Yeah, they won't speak to you, and that's, you know, and then when you lose capacity, you become a vulnerable person and then even more protected, so it's even more difficult.
But if you have got lasting power of attorney, you then, well, with the financial one, because there's two types, isn't there? Property and affairs.
Yep.
Let's take a look at the list of just some of the things that you can do. And there's so much, isn't there, Georgia?
There is, yeah. So with the property and affairs lasting power of attorney, it's all things finances.
Right.
So it is ranging from your bank accounts to perhaps selling your property, you know, down to, you know, you have to access your bank account to do the weekly food shop.
That's and and claim the pensions,
things that you wouldn't think
any
about,
benefits, and that would be out of your control completely, wouldn't it? Unless you had lasting power of attorney.
Yeah, that's far from an exhaustive list. The summary's probably spot on, isn't it? Is you essentially choose someone that you trust who steps into your shoes and can just take over from you. Because, you know, we all take for granted, quite rightly, so they can just throw the quilt cover back and just get on with our day.
Yeah, get on with it.
You know, we don't think about making that phone call or moving that money into that account or paying that bill. And a lot is digitised now and automatic. But it's amazing because there's couples as well who like have joint accounts, and they perhaps think, oh, well, it'll be okay because I can still access a joint account. But if one of the people who've got that joint account loses capacity, then that account has to be frozen as well, because now it can't be jointly accessed.
You wouldn't think that, would you? You'd
no,
think separate accounts, but if you had a joint account, you've both got to be well, haven't you?
And if you own a property jointly, you're tied up with that property as well, because again, only one of you can sign. So
if you needed to sell it, you couldn't really, because
you both have to sign.
It can get very, very complicated, very stressful, very quickly, and again, there is not enough information out there, I don't think, because married couples do automatically think they can just step into the spouse's shoes, and unfortunately that's not the case. You know, the bottom line is, unless you make a lasting power of attorney, you've not given your voice to anybody. So if you lose your voice, unfortunately it is lost, and then you've got to rely on someone who hopefully would be who you've chosen to try and go a different legal route, to try and get your voice, if you like, or to try and step into your shoes. So these are a document that you want to have, but then truthfully hope that you never need to use it.
Yeah. So we were saying there are two different types. That's the financial that we just talked about. There's also health and welfare, isn't there?
Yes, so the health and welfare one, again, it allows somebody of your choosing to step in and assist you if you lose capacity in respect of your care. So it comes down to living arrangements. So if you need to go into care, or alternatively, if they want to take care of you, that document entitles them to do exactly that. And, you know, it comes down to, again, day-to-day decisions that you take for granted and you don't think about, and such as getting dressed, what are you going to wear, or even what you're eating, dietary requirements, maybe preferences, even down to how you wear your hair every single day.
Yeah, and to your loved one, that's so. My auntie Cora, she had beautiful white grey hair. Yeah. She loved her hair doing perfectly, and she loved having nail polish on. And however poorly she was, she would always want to make sure she wouldn't want tatty nails. She wouldn't, you know, she wouldn't want not have her hair done. And that's personally when we came to you for Mum's financial lasting power of attorney, and I didn't realise there were two until we sat down and chatted, and I was like, this Mum is just as important, or perhaps to me it's more important.
Yeah.
So I know that I can personally really look after how you're being cared for.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's like Ian said earlier, you're donating your power, you're nominating somebody to make those decisions for you, and it helps you retain that control because you've made that decision.
Yeah. You've chosen the person you trust as well, because you'd want to give it to somebody you trust, especially if it's financial. Well, both actually.
Both. Yeah.
You'd want to make sure you chose the right person, wouldn't you?
Exactly, and you want it to be somebody who knows you and, you know, does the things that you would like to do on a day-to-day basis, and I think that's really important.
And what happens? Because like if you haven't written a will, we've been talking how there is a government will and that automatically falls into place, so you have got a will. So if we're in this situation and we want to look after our loved ones, whether it's the financial side or whether it's the the health side, what would we do? How can we then step into their shoes when they're poorly? Because when they're poorly, it's too late
to get.
Once they've lost mental capacity, if they've not got the capacity to make a lasting power of attorney, no one else can make a lasting power of attorney, and you can only do it whilst you have the mental capacity to do it. And at the risk of sounding cheesy, that's today. Yeah. That's right now, because yesterday's gone, tomorrow never comes. We don't know what the future holds, so all you know is now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you lose capacity without having set up a lasting power of attorney, you're relying on somebody to approach what's called the Court of Protection, and they have to apply for something called a deputyship order. And that's a different way of sort of getting control of your finances, if you like.
And the costs for that, well, we've got a list of the costs, but this would have to come out of your pocket, wouldn't it?
Out of that person's pocket who was applying until such time that they were granted the deputyship order, if they were granted the deputyship order.
So it's not guaranteed you're going to
It's certainly not guaranteed, and I think a really important thing to note as well is it could be anyone that claims to have an interest in looking after your financial affairs, and that someone might not be who you would have chosen for yourself. And that happens more often than not. Now, the whole point of the Court of Protection is to protect that vulnerable person, but they can only work on the information that they're given. So you might have a son that you would have asked to step into your shoes, but it might be his brother that comes forward and not him. And that might not be what you would have wanted, for example. But as you can see from just the prices alone on the screen there, the application fee is £421. All those fees, including the annual supervision fee, add up to over £1,000 just to actually put the application form in, if you do it yourself.
I was going to say, that's without any professional advice.
And I can imagine that's a few pages.
It's quite a form of it.
Yeah, the forms in the court process, and you can imagine how many times sometimes people get it wrong, so it bounces back from the court.
Oh, gosh.
And it's not always just the financial thing that's horrible. It's actually the amount of time that the court are taking to actually make a decision on the application.
Process,
still taking up to a year from getting the application accepted for a decision to come out of the court.
And that's a year where that's taken you away from your loved one, trying to do all that information. And a year could be, I guess, too late for some people.
No one wants to think bad stuff's always going to happen to somebody else. We all know that, until sadly it happens to someone that we know. So if we had a crystal ball and we could see that everything was fine, we wouldn't need any of these documents. The same way we'd never insure anything if we knew nothing bad was going to happen. But there's one story that always stays with me, and it was a woman whose husband was knocked over on a country road, and it put him in a coma for 3 years. And she talked about the fact that they'd got wills but hadn't done lasting power of attorney. And she went on to say that he managed all the money, so she couldn't access any. So she had to go through the Court of Protection, which was obviously expensive, long-winded, etc. But that supervision fee, she was supervised by the court. They actually put a limit on what she could actually spend of what was technically their money, but deemed as her husband's money, of £500. And she went on to explain that she had to pay her daughter's tuition fees, which were more than £500. So she actually had to ask the court for permission to pay her own daughter's tuition fees.
Out of her own money, really?
Yeah, and there was there was a line. She was interviewed. It was on a TV programme, and the line that stayed with me, she said that she cried when her husband died, eventually, but she also cried when she was released from the Court of Protection, because this horrible situation was made so much worse. And so, you know, the reason that she did this interview was to say to people, I didn't think it was going to happen to me, and it did. And whilst it wouldn't have made the tragedy any easier, it wouldn't have been made worse, because had they had a lasting power of attorney, she could have just registered it with something called the Office of the Public Guardian, and she'd have had full control of that money without having to answer to anybody, because her husband would have made it clear when he had capacity and was able to do so, I trust my wife, I want my wife to step into my shoes. And that's what the vast majority of our clients do. They always choose each other if they're in a partnership or a relationship, and or the children. Every now and then they might choose one child over the other. And that's where sometimes clients are shocked that as we're going through the consultation for wills and lasting powers of attorney, it's often funnier than they think it was going to be, you know, because all we're doing is planning for something. With a will, there's an inevitability, of course there is. We know a will be read. With a lasting power of attorney, you're just covering off the what if. What if? What if life did throw you that curveball? What you've done again is incredibly selfless, but you've also done something really important for yourself, because you know that if you are unlucky, you've already chosen the people that are going to step in and look after you. It's the people it's the people that you trust. So make one and then hope you never need to use it.
That's
And you do completely. We did mums, and we did both. We went for the financial originally, not knowing that there was a health and welfare as well. And then I was like, we've got to do both. And it just felt like this weight off our shoulders, and then completely forgotten about it. Never think about it apart from when we sit down and do a show. But you just know that it's there if you ever needed it.
You're quite right. My wife and I did ours over 20 years ago. It's in secure storage. We know it's ready to go if life ever throws either of us a curveball. And you're right, you don't need to think about it.
No.
Just hope that we do never need to use them. Our company, if you like, before lasting powers of attorney came into place in 2007, there was something before it called enduring powers of attorney.
Right.
And we've still got thousands and thousands of those stored with our business, and we're registering those today. So someone that did that more than 20 years ago, potentially, we're getting phone calls at the office saying, we've got a certificate of storage here. Did my dad have an enduring power of attorney or a lasting power of attorney? And we're going, yeah, and the relief is palpable.
Of course.
Because you get a lot of sort of too late phone calls, don't
Sadly,
you, where people ring hoping that their parents say did a lasting power of attorney and they haven't.
Really, really rare occasions, if we can get a third-party capacity note from a GP or a professional, you might still be able to do something, but 99% of the time, unfortunately, if we get a too late phone call, it's because it is too late. It's like, my dad's being diagnosed with dementia, is there anything you can do? And unfortunately, then it's too late to actually make that document. The only time to do it is now, because you don't know what the future holds. But do it and then hope.
Hope you never use it.
It's planning for the worst and hoping for the best.
And do it right now, because you have got such incredible prices as well. It's making it really affordable. Simple law, make it so easy as well. So again, take a look at the prices. Whether you are watching because you're thinking about doing a will, but now you've listened to lasting power of attorney, it's entirely up to you. You can do the will individually, normal price £249. Our regular sort of shop on TV offer £124, but we've got the best deal we do with that extra 20% off, under £100, and you can split that cost with those 4 payments. So £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments. Again, making it so affordable to get that will, that legally binding will written, because if you haven't written a legally binding will, and we will go back into this, sadly there's a will that's been written by the government that will fall into place, and it won't be what you or the family that you've left behind will want to happen. Then lasting power of attorney, and we were talking about this, if you want to go for that, normally £349. We always do a great deal.
Yeah, the offer price would have been £239 and a great deal, as Hayley said. However, with that extra 20% off, it comes down to £189. It makes everything so affordable. If you want to spread the cost, £47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. And we always say, think about what you would spend £47.25 on
We
nowadays.
can't get a takeaway for that
No,
now, can we?
No.
Honestly,
So we don't have one.
No, we don't, and we try and get all the deals, and we still under £50 struggle to get a takeaway. So that again is so
just shows you the value of something that's so important.
So important. And if you are watching, perhaps you already got in contact at the beginning of the show, and now you're thinking, oh, I only asked about the will. I wish I'd done will and lasting power of attorney. As long as you've got in contact and secured the prices, you can still get this price. And I would say, if you haven't done your will and you haven't got a lasting power of attorney, look at your saving here. This is a brilliant way to get them both done. Should be virtually £600. You can see there our regular price £315. But with that extra 20% off, you're actually saving more than you're spending. £249 is your price. You're saving £349. And of course, you can split that cost as well over those 4 payments. So £62.25 is your first payment. Remember too, if you are getting in contact right now, and it's best because we do tend to... everything gets in the way. Tomorrow will come and suddenly it'll be,
you get up, you go to work, you drop the kids off.
Again, that's it, all of it, and you think, I still haven't done my will. Do it right now so you actually get it done, because we're rubbish at you know, getting things sorted.
And it is time limited, remember. It's only until the close of business on Monday, but we would say do it right now so you don't forget to do it.
Yeah.
The other reason is this. Now, the first 250 people to sign up will get this book. It's called What My Family Should Know, Ian. This is a real essential when someone passes, because everything's in one place.
Such a clever idea, actually, because
it's another selfless act, if you
Yeah.
like, but it allows you to sit down and take stock of what you've got, but also leave vital information to your loved ones. It was born out of our estate administration department, because we help a lot of clients go through the probate process. And one of the jobs of an executor is to gather in the deceased estate. So, you know, what did they have? What do they own? And having a document like this really, really helps with that. But what was interesting when we were doing a load of research putting this together is just how much money hasn't made it to the rightful beneficiaries because it hasn't been found. So it's believed in the UK there's £5 billion worth of pension pots that hasn't gone to loved ones.
oh, wow.
£2 billion of life insurance policies that haven't been claimed.
Just because it hasn't been found.
It's not being found. And 850 million sat in various bank accounts that, again, should be with relatives and loved ones. And if it's not found, it's not being claimed as part of the estate, it's not being passed on. And I don't want to be cynical, but I don't think the financial institutions are running around
Trying to find
Over here,
these
we've got
people.
some, yeah. Yeah.
So, so again, it forms part of the whole thing. It's been really, really well received, and and we've decided, obviously, as an exclusive to Shop on TV viewers, that the first 250 will get it for free.
That's great.
It is. It's a brilliant book. So again, if you're getting in contact right now, you know you've got the chance of getting one of those books, and it's so easy to get in contact. Don't have to speak to anybody if you don't want to. You can jump onto the website. You can text. There's every option. So whatever you'd rather do, just do it now before you forget. And what you've done is you've secured those prices, and you've done the most difficult thing, which is that first step. The rest, honestly, is so easy with Simple Law. You can go via their website, simplelaw.co.uk/shop on TV. The team are in the call centre right now until 3 a.m.
If you do want to call, they're there, ready, waiting to pick up the calls. 0333 600 2600. Don't think you need some documents. Don't think you need ID. You don't need anything. You're just securing the offer of the deals that we talked about. And do that first step, and you've started the process,
And
which is
they're
always the hardest thing.
great team as well. If you want to ask
Even if you're unsure what you want to do in your will or who you want to appoint your power of attorney,
you don't need to know now.
No,
do you?
we'll help you with all of that. The important thing is to make the decision to do it, and once you've made the decision to do it, we can help you with the rest.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's your document, it's not ours. It's in our interest to help you, but we can only help you if you get in touch.
Definitely. And the easiest way of all, and usually the busiest, is the texting service that they offer. Just text the word WILL, WILL, to 66777, and then you've secured those deals. And then the team will get back to you later today or tomorrow.
Yeah, don't panic if you've got a really busy few weeks coming up. Perhaps you're going away on holiday for a couple of weeks and you think, I won't do it now, because we're good again at putting things off. I won't do it now because I'm really busy.
I've got to do this and I've got to do that.
As long as you secure those prices right now, the team will get back in contact with you, and you can say, I'm really sorry, I'm busy for like the next 3 weeks. They'll sort a date that works for you, and it'll all work around you, and they make it so easy. And honestly, there's so many things that you can do, whether it's your will or lasting power of attorney. But when we sat down and did the will, I couldn't believe there's so many things you wouldn't even think you could put into a will. And if perhaps you've got an old will as well and you're thinking, I wonder if I need to update it, do talk to them about that as well, because lots of things, change over the years. But Simpler Law, no, you don't need to know anything. And like Ian was just saying, you don't even really need to know what you want to happen, because as you sit down and chat, and it is just a sit-down conversation, the Simpler Law team, and they become friends, they've got all the right questions, because actually in here you have got all the right answers. It's just you need the question asked.
It's so great to work alongside Simpler Law, because the reviews, when you read them, are spectacular. And most of the reviews mention the They're consultants that people worked with, and you will work with the same person once you start the process, which is really important.
Yeah, really nice. They become a friend, really.
Yeah, Eunice said this: my experience from start to finish was fantastic. They made me feel at ease with something that isn't easy to do for anybody. Jack is a credit to the company. He helped me to sort the problems I had and was happy to answer the questions that I had. That one from Eunice there. Lisa says, brilliant service from Michael at Simpler Law. Helpful, professional and friendly, answered all our questions and gave us time to think when we needed it. That's a great one, actually, because it is at your pace. The will is all sorted and much easier than we thought it would be. Thank you, Michael. I will be recommending you to friends. And one more to share with you. After making an appointment, I spoke to Sam about making a will. He phoned bang on time and was informative, knowledgeable and helpful. He was patient, listened to my questions and made the whole process very easy. He was polite and courteous and a credit to Simpler Law. All round excellent customer service. And that's what you want to read, isn't it? That's what you want to hear.
It's like a hand-holding service, really, and they go at your pace. I'm a real worrier, and my mum's even worse than me. So when we sat down to do mum's lasting power of attorney, we were so worried, and then put us straight at ease straight away. And we didn't, as I say, need to know anything really. They had all those right questions. We had all those right answers, and at no point, and I always worry that I asked the wrong thing,
or say the wrong thing.
Yeah, or I sounded a bit daft because I didn't understand what a certain word. At no point did I feel I was asking the wrong question. Everything was explained so simply that, you know, I understood everything. And also they go at your pace, so even if I'm a good one for, we've got a neighbour and she knows what she's going to say straight away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Me, I think, oh, why didn't I say that? You know, why didn't I ask that question? And I could email and say, oh gosh, just forgot to ask about that. And honestly, at your pace, and they make it so easy to do.
So easy, so affordable. You've just got to take that first step. And we're going to go back to wills now. Ian and Georgia join us from Simpler Law. When it comes to wills, I think it's really important everybody to have a will, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so important.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of myths and misconceptions around, you know, oh, I don't need a will, or it's a complicated
I'm too
process.
young, I'll wait till I get married.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
daunting.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many reasons, but it could be the same with everything. But once you do it, and it's like Ian said earlier, you don't know until you get in touch with us, but it's actually, we make the process nice and simple for you, and the idea is just to give you that peace of mind and, you know that you've got everything ready to support you should you need it.
And it's so affordable, but this is all you do, isn't it? And you specialise.
This is all we do. We specialise in this area and this area alone. You don't come to us for anything else. You don't come to us for a boundary dispute, a divorce or a personal injury claim. But if you want to protect everything that you've worked hard for, then we're the company to do that. We've written over 300,000 wills. We're insured for £5 million, which means that our advice to you and our documents that are created, you're protected for up to £5 million in case we make a mistake, and touch wood, we never have. We've never had a will fail in all the time that we've been doing it. But it means that our consultants, and you saw the reviews there, it's really nice to hear those reviews. Yeah. But they understand that when we're speaking to a client, it might be the first time, it might be the only time that they make a will. And Hayley, you mentioned a minute ago that if people have already got a will, has anything changed? It might be worth reviewing that. Even if it's not your personal circumstances that have changed, legislation moves.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think the last Treasury report showed that the government took £6.7 billion in inheritance tax from people that had passed away. Some of that would have been avoidable if they'd have planned correctly and used all the tax-free thresholds that are available. So making a will is incredibly selfless, but it can also be incredibly important and ridiculously valuable for your family. That's why it's important, because sadly, if you don't make a will, understandably, there is a default position. Because if you think about it logically, if someone passes away and it's like, oh, did they have a will? If the answer is no, it's like, all right, deal with it yourself then.
Right,
that can't be the outcome, because it would be anarchy.
Yeah.
So you either pass away with your own will, hopefully professionally written and done correctly, or if you don't, you get what's called the rules of intestacy will, or the government will, which is basically a default position that's just designed to guarantee that your estate, what you own, goes somewhere.
So if you haven't written your own legally binding will, this is what happens. This is the government will.
That's it. Those happy, smiley
For
people
everybody,
there.
that same will for every person.
Every single adult in the UK has already got that will until they make their own.
So even if you're at home thinking, I haven't got a will, you have, because
Yeah.
you've got this one.
Yeah.
Right.
It's free. That's a good thing. It's free. It's free.
yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't do what you want it to do. So
Well, we've fallen at the first hurdle because the first question is, are you married? And we're not.
No,
But could I tell them that we've been together 35 years?
it doesn't care.
Okay.
It doesn't care. No, it literally is all about your bloodline and it's about your marital status. Hence the first question asked of the person that's passed away is, were they married or in a civil partnership? And every single question is a closed question with a yes or no answer.
There's no in-between.
There's no flexibility, there's no grey areas, it's yes or no. And it will follow a bloodline. The government will never fails. It will always, what you own when you pass away will always end up with either someone in your family or it will go back to the Crown. So it will always find a way to distribute your estate.
So it doesn't fail, but it will
be an
probably
end
fail
point.
you because it's not what you wanted to happen.
That's exactly right. The government will succeed every single time in distributing what you've worked hard for, but just so there's a default position and it can say, yep, we've dealt with that person's estate, that's done now. But you're right, it fails you because one, you don't get to choose who administers your estate. So that's where the first problem can be. Who's going to step forward and deal with this? Two, it doesn't care about your children. If your children aren't ready to inherit when they're 18 and you pass away when they're young, the second they turn 18, they're going to get your money whether they want it or not. Right. If there's someone in your family, in your direct family, such as children, that you don't want to inherit, then unfortunately the rules of intestacy don't care about that neither. They're all going to inherit in equal shares. And it may be you don't want your children to inherit in equal shares. There's just nothing personal about it.
And if you've got children from different relationships, because that government will is 100 years old, so life was very different then. And it still one will can't work for everybody, but it perhaps might have been a little bit closer back then. But now there's so many families that are blended families and have children from different relationships.
Second marriages.
And so they see themselves, they're not stepsisters or stepbrothers, they're not stepchildren, they're one big family. That government won't see that, will it, at all?
That government will doesn't see that as a complete family. The government will see that as two separate bloodlines. So if you've got Mr. who's got children from a previous relationship and Mrs. who's got children from a previous relationship, one of those sets of children is going to lose out depending on which parent passes away first.
No, I truly think people will not know
Wouldn't
this.
be aware of
they'll
it.
be going, there's no way, that's completely wrong. How can that be?
And this is the shock at an already terrible time, which is why we do these shows, say to people, please consider making a will. Because the rules of intestacy doesn't care about you or your family or the makeup of your family. All it cares about is being the backstop for all those people that haven't made a will. And forgive the stick fingers, but if you've got that scenario where Mr. has children from a previous relationship, Mrs. has children from a previous relationship, but they've come together on a second marriage now, if Mr. passes away first, the rules of intestacy will say, yeah, I'm going to leave everything to the spouse, so everything goes to Mrs. But then when Mrs. passes away, it will only go down her bloodline to her children. So his children are basically disinherited entirely.
Oh my
People
goodness,
just wouldn't have a clue about that, would they? You
and imagine
just
the
wouldn't be
family
aware.
upset of that happening.
It's very rare that's the outcome that the parents want, is let's toss a coin and see which kids are going to inherit.
I really think people just don't know.
No, and again, that's why when you actually make a will, it is incredibly selfless, because you stop all this heartache from happening by just giving up half an hour of your time and what isn't a lot of money. I mean, it sounds crass, but the way that we break it down over the 4 payments with exclusive offer here, it's about 80 pence a day to put a will in place. So cost shouldn't stop you from putting a will in place. And if you think you don't need a will, or you've been told by someone that you don't need a will and everything should be okay, I would encourage you to challenge that. Who's told you that? Why do you think that? Because we still, don't we, to this day, come across people who say, oh, I don't need a will because John down the pub, who's a Trivial Pursuit champion, said that we're common law husband and wife. And we're like, there's no such thing. Or the guy down the pub, and he's an expert in everything, he actually said that we've been together for 2 years, so we've got certain rights. We hear all kinds of wonderful
You
things.
do
and we're
hear
like,
those kind
And
of
we've
things.
heard both of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're like, where's that come from?
Yeah.
And the reality is, and you can check this out for yourselves, the bottom line is, when you pass away, you either pass away with your own valid will in place that you created, or you get the government will. There's no in between. There's no exceptions to that. There's no grey areas. There's no option 3. You either pass away with your own will or you pass away with the government will. Please don't pass away with the government
And
will.
that's everybody, and everybody needs a will. So we definitely need a will because we're not married, and, and the government won't care. We've been together 35 years, and what's ours is ours.
No provision for unmarried partners, whether you've been together a minute
Just
or you've been
stops.
together 100 years. Just no provision,
Nothing at all.
none at all.
And then you just heard if you are married, it's still not going to work for you,
If you've got a blended family, there's also monetary limits
That's
on
right.
what goes to
Even
the spouse.
spouses aren't guaranteed to get everything from each other.
Which is
under
crazy,
Yeah.
which you would think.
Again, it's something
hang on.
you'd just presume. I
But
get
if
it
you
all.
are a single person, and this story always sticks with me, because I think, and obviously we don't know why he didn't write a will, but I think as a single person, you might think, it's only me. I'm not married. I'll wait till I get married. I haven't got children, so I've got no one to pass anything on to, so I'll wait until that perhaps happens. But even as a single person, this story about this young gentleman he was a doctor or a surgeon or something, he was in the medical profession, wasn't he? Tell us this story, because I think this is heartbreaking, and I am sure he wouldn't have wanted the outcome that happened.
No, it was awful because it was told by his mother. So it's already horrible because no parent should have to bury the child. But this poor gentleman died suddenly, unexpectedly. As you quite rightly said, he was successful as a medical consultant. The backstory was that when he was born, his dad basically left his mum. So his dad left the family and had nothing to do with him. So no birthday cards, no contact, no nothing. So this gentleman grew up without really knowing his father. It didn't, as far as he's concerned, he was just brought up by his mum. And then sadly he passed away. He'd never married and he'd never had children. And he'd never made a will. And you're right, we'll never know exactly why he didn't make a will, but you can make some guesses. But because he died intestate, he got the government will, which the first question, as we've already ascertained, was the person who passed away married or in a civil partnership? The answer to that question was no, because he was single. Then it was, the next question that's led on to then is, did he have children? Again, the answer was no, which takes you to the next question, which was, do you have parents? And the answer, of course, was yes. So his mom now has to track down her ex-husband, who she's also not seen for decades, to tell him that our son has died and you're entitled to half of everything that he's earned, even though you've not been a part of his life. And people are the reaction was appalled. We're appalled by that. That can't be right. That's not fair. And even down to people going, well, that can't be right. That's not true. Sadly, that's exactly what happened, because it is true. And that's the problem with the rules of intestacy. It doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't care about morality. It doesn't care about right or wrong. It's there as a backstop and as a default only, and should only be used in the circumstances where you don't know that you should have a will. Now, if you're listening to me at this time in the morning, unfortunately, you can't make the argument that you don't know you should have a will and that you've got a government will. There's plenty of people out there who pass away, that have never seen this show, never inquired about a will, who think that everything's going to be okay, and then sadly it's not, because of course they get hit by the government will. If you're listening to me this morning, please take this as an opportunity to get rid of the government will. The government has enough effect on our lives as it is. Don't let the rules of intestacy be your last act on planet Earth. Let your will be your last act on planet Earth. And the last gift to your family. But it also means that everything you've worked hard for will then go where you want it to go. Or in some cases, not go to where you don't want it to go.
Because you can specify that as well.
Of course you can,
I love how you keep saying it's your document,
your choice,
it's your will.
your choice.
Yeah, and that's what's so important. And don't think wills are just about the monetary things, because they're about so much more. With a will, you can do so many different things. We've got a list here, Georgia, on the screen, and this is just some of the things that you can specify, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's not an all-inclusive list by any means, but you know, as you go down that list, actually, it's very interesting because, like with what Ian just said, it's everything you choose. So it's what you choose in there. You can choose from your funeral wishes, you can choose from guardians for your children, maybe for your pets, choosing what age your children inherit, and again, like we mentioned earlier, choose who doesn't inherit.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people won't think that the natural inheritance, they don't have to do that if they don't want to.
I think people would be embarrassed to say that, but that's quite a common thing.
Oh, yes.
And that could be a big family upset if you knew as a family that there perhaps was one child that wasn't a good child or had fallen out with the parents, and then you knew your parents didn't want that child to have, and then when the government rule fell into place, it has to be given to them. I mean, that'd be so upsetting, wouldn't it?
It is, and sadly, we've actually seen that in practice.
We have some very difficult conversations at the office, don't we?
You must have.
Families phone up and say, can you help? You know, my father's passed away. He's not seen his eldest son for 20 years. He had a massive argument. They fell out. He's had nothing to do with him. He made it clear that he only wanted, you know, me and my sister to inherit. But he's not left a will, and I'm being told that
my hair's gone in.
I'm being told that my brother is going to inherit, and we're like,
you have to say
yeah,
He is.
and that just adds to the heartbreak. It adds to the
Emotions are so high as it is, and that would just be heartbreaking. That what you knew your mum, your dad, your loved one wanted, the complete opposite is happening.
It's fair to say, I can't be clearer on this. Telling your loved ones or telling anyone what you want to happen is simply not enough. It just is. It's not binding in any shape or form. It's not going to work. The only way for you to determine what's going to happen after you've passed away is to make your own will. It's as simple as that, and that's why we do these shows to get that point across.
And a legally binding will, because there are templates out there, and there's a lot, and you have to pay for them for a start. But I've heard a lot of stories about template. You can
how it can go wrong.
And that's really upsetting because they want to write a will, but writing your own on what can happen? How can you go wrong?
Well, indulge me for a second. If you pick up the phone tonight or send us a text, we'll contact you and we'll book an appointment with you at a time that's convenient for you. We'll send you some information that you can choose to read or not read, just to give yourself a little bit of preparation ahead of your appointment. Then when we speak to you, we're going to hold your hand through the whole process, not in a patronising way, but we're going to take your instructions from you. So we've got all the questions, you've got all the answers. We'll only produce your will for you when you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given us, but more importantly, with the advice that we've given you. That could be around inheritance tax, it could be around all the decisions you want to make, but you have to be absolutely happy. And if you're not, you tell us you don't go any further and we'll give you your money back. Then when we produce the document, they're professionally bound, they're sent out to you, and we contact you again to make sure you've got them and you understand them. Then we help you get them signed, dated and witnessed correctly, because even in this digital age, they're not valid until it's got a wet signature on it. So we do all of that within this price. Yeah. So that's what you get, and you get fully insured advice. When you buy a template,
here we go.
Good luck. I don't mean to be facetious, but unless you have the knowledge that our client care team does, I don't know why you'd risk it.
It's just the worry of it going wrong, isn't it? And so many times it does.
And if it does go wrong, you've got no recourse neither.
No.
Now, touch wood, we've never had a will fail. But if we did make a mistake, then we're at fault, not you. If you make a mistake in your own document or you don't get it signed properly, the worst thing about templates, I think, is when we've seen them fail, and sadly they do quite often, is it's pretty clear what the person was trying to achieve, so you can see what they're trying to achieve. So when it fails and goes to the rules of intestacy, it's like, oh.
Because they did want to write.
They've had the intention, yeah.
And how can it go wrong? I think it's terminology, like that would be me, because I'm not going to understand some of the wording. So you could write something that made sense to you. It's a bit like when you send a text and you knew what it meant, but actually you've really insulted someone and it wasn't meant that way. You can just get words wrong, can't you? And that could completely turn what you want to happen.
Look, it's like anything else. Unless you know what you're doing, of course you can make a mistake. And that isn't a criticism. You know, again, it may sound like I'm being facetious, but if I get a toothache, I'm going to go and see a dentist because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. You know, I know how to drive a car. Some would argue I don't, but I know how to drive a car, but I don't know how it works. So, you know, if it needs a service, then I take it to a garage. You know, I don't even cut my own grass because I've no interest in it and I'm rubbish at it. And my lawnmower, I've been told by everyone, was awful. So it's just like, so I pay someone to cut my grass. That's a choice that you make, but you can pay for a professional service. And as long as there's value for money, that's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
When you do anything yourself, you're taking on all that liability. And if you're not an expert, it's never going to be quite as good as a professional. I almost fitted a kitchen, believe it or not. I did. I was very proud of it. I loved it. And it was quite a nice thing for me to do. I'll never do it again because looking back, I didn't have the right tools. I knew what I wanted to do, but it was a bodge job, truthfully. Yeah. I'm a will writer. Why was I fitting a kitchen?
Why would you do that?
But we've all attempted things that, you know, you can go on the internet now and be given tips and this, that, and the other. But this is a specialist area. Unless you know how the inheritance tax thresholds work, unless you know certain terminology about making sure that what happens if that person isn't there that you wanted to inherit, what happens then?
Yes.
We help you think about things that you won't necessarily ordinarily think about. And as I said, we've never made a mistake, touch wood, we've never had a will fail. But if we do make a mistake, that's on us and you're protected. If you make a mistake, there's no one that anyone can go to, because unfortunately, that mistake will come to light when you've passed away and then it can't be fixed. I don't understand the risk, truthfully.
And as a couple, there is a first death and a second death, and that you can easily write that incorrectly.
Well, you wouldn't, in layman's terms, we wouldn't.
It sounds
even
like
know
a ridiculous thing to say, doesn't it? First death and second death.
Yeah.
But yes, couples usually, people might have heard the term mirror will. So they sort of duplicate each other. You know, for example, again, forgive the finger puppets, but it's always, you know, Mr. and Mrs. with two children, let's say, together. It's not unusual for Mrs. to say, well, if I passed away, I want it to go to my husband, and when my husband passes away, I want it to go to our children, equal shares, and vice versa. But sometimes people might want to put some gifts in there. It might be jewellery, it might be cash, it might be charitable donations. But at what point should those gifts be paid? After one of them's died or after both of them's died? And these are the conversations that we have, and then we draft it accordingly. But you know, I could bore the viewers all night with a billion different scenarios. The nice thing is, when we're speaking to our client, there aren't a billion scenarios, there's just one.
It's yours.
It's yours, and that's why the document that we create is unique. And can't stress enough, it's not our will. Yes, we've helped draft it for you. It's not our will, it's yours, and it's about you and it's about your family. You compare that to the government will, doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your family. Truthfully, doesn't know you or your family. No. That's the backstop. Please don't die with the backstop.
No, and honestly, get it done professionally, especially when you've got such incredible prices. We're going under £100 for your will. That peace of mind that Simple Law, they've got all the right questions. You've got all the right answers, and all you need to do is sit down, and it is a sit-down conversation to make sure what you've worked so hard for actually does happen. It goes to the loved ones you want it to
legally binding. It's fully insured. You've also got that 14-day money-back guarantee, so you've really got great peace of mind to write your will, your document. Let's take a look at the offers, because we've got extra 20% discounts on these offers. So if you wanted to go for the will itself, the suggested retail price is £249. The offer price should be £124. It comes down to less than £100. At £99 to have your will, that peace of mind, have your will written, and there with your wishes whenever it needs to be used.
Your final gift to your loved one. You'd hate to look down and you've told the family what you want to happen and you never wrote your will, and now you're watching not what you wanted to happen, not what they know you wanted to happen, because the government will falls into place. If you haven't written a legally binding will, you will get the government will, and for 4 payments of £24.75, you've written your own personal will. What you worked so hard for, what you want to happen, is going to happen. So please, I think that's an absolute must-have to get that will written. But if you have joined us and you've listened to the lasting power of attorney, and we will go back and talk about that in a little bit of detail as well. That's something I think sometimes you hear about those too late stories, and perhaps you're thinking, oh yeah, what was that? I remember something about a lasting impact. This is so important as well, and you've got a fabulous price on this. Should be £349. Our offer normally £239, so normally £100 saving, but actually even better than that. You're saving £160. You've got an extra 20% off, so £189, which again you can split. So 4 payments of £47.25. We can't get a takeaway just for us for that cost. Honestly, this is money so well spent. And then you might decide, actually, I'm going to go for both. I'll do the will and lasting power of attorney, and you're saving more than you're spending here.
But that's where the biggest value is of all. It should be almost £600. And even at that price, for your will and lasting power of attorney, it really is good value. But the offer price of £315 comes down again with that extra 20% discount to £249. With those 4 interest-free payments that they're offering at £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Don't forget, the first 250 clients will also receive that free book, What My Family Should Know.
There's loads of reasons to get in contact right now. It's a time-limited offer. You've only got those prices till close of business on Monday, so to do it now so you don't forget. Monday will come and go and you'll think, I've missed out on the price. But actually do it for this reason as well. We have 250 of these books. They always disappear. That's the reason to get in contact right now, to make sure you get your book. And it's a What Your Family Should Know. It's a book which, again, your will, if you're writing a will, is your final gift to your family. But this is a gift to your family as well, because they're not hunting for all that vital information that they need.
You're recording all the essential information in just one place.
There.
It's things like your insurance policies, your bank account details, digital accounts, very importantly, things like passwords, such as that, for your computers, your tablets and your phones. So many details recorded in that one place.
Those passcodes, so important, because now you're looking for letters normally. Well, letters now are emails. You may need a real vital email, or actually it's something personal. Perhaps you know mum or dad or your brother or sister have that video of you all together at that certain, and only they have that video. That memory is gone because you can't get on to that tablet, so all that information is in there. So easy to get in contact and do it right now. Whether you want to speak to someone or not, you can do it via the website, you can jump onto the phones, or you can text. simplylaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Jump on there right now, submit a form, and you know you've secured those prices. But the team are in the call centre till 3.
Yeah, through there till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. If you are watching on our +1 channels, however, go to the website or use the texting service, because if you text the word will, WILL, to 66777, you've secured those offers that we're talking about.
I think that's the easiest option. It's always the busiest option. I'm always quite happy just to send a text. I don't want to talk to anybody right now. Send that text, you've secured the prices, and they'll get back to you to sort out a time that's convenient for you. And don't worry if you're away for a couple of weeks or you've got a busy month ahead. As long as you secure the price right now, when the team get in contact, you can just say, well, I can't actually speak to you until so-and-so, and they'll work around you. And you can go via our website as well. All you need to do is scroll down the very first page you come to. You'll get to a banner that will say Simpler Law. Click onto that and it takes you through to this page, and that will remind you of everything, the phone numbers, the text, and of course you can submit the form. And if you are looking at it out of hours and you think, oh, I was going to ring up, just do the form. It's really easy. Press submit, or just text. Texting will to 66777 is the simplest thing to do.
It's such an easy process. Don't overthink it. Don't think, well, it's definitely not too expensive because we've shown you the offer prices, but don't think it's going to be really complicated and scary either, because the whole process is a real hand-holding service.
Simple will make it so easy.
Sorry, please don't fall into the trap of just thinking, I'm sure it'll be okay.
That's a great point.
That's the worst thing.
I think a lot of people do, because a lot of people, we thought it'd be okay because we've been together and living together 35 years. A lot of people think, well, I've told the family what I want to happen, so they know what I want. None of that is ever going to be any good, is it, if you haven't written a legally
it's
binding
awful
will?
Because you don't know about it, because sadly you're not here, but your thought of, I'm sure it'll be okay, it's your family that then have to deal with it not being okay.
And
So-
deal with it at such an awful time.
Yeah, and this, this is why I always say, I know the line sounds cheesy, but I mean it wholeheartedly, is no one ever regrets making a will, because there is nothing to regret by doing it, but your family could certainly regret that you didn't. And so when we hear these stories, and sadly we hear them literally weekly, of relatives, beneficiaries, if you like, saying, this is not what mum wanted, this is not what dad wanted, we know it isn't. It's like, but they didn't make a will. Yeah, but they told us this, they thought it would be okay. And that's the same for unmarried partners who assume that it's going to be okay because they've been told by someone that the common law husband and wife. There is no such thing. The only way to make sure that what you want to happen when you're no longer here is to make your own will. And that's why we do these shows, to get that point across. Of course, we'd love to have you as a client, but it's more than that. I consider myself really fortunate to have found this profession, because we get to run this business by genuinely helping people, because we know that that will is going to be used, and we know it's going to make a difference to that family. So please don't fall into the trap of going, I'm sure it'll be okay, because unfortunately the rules of intestacy don't make it okay.
Yeah.
For anyone that's just joined us, if you haven't written a legally binding will, you might be sat at home thinking, oh, I know I haven't got a will. We actually, as adults, we all do have a will, don't we? So if we haven't written our own legally binding will, what you want to happen, the government's written a will for us.
They're very generous, and it's for free. We don't even have to pay for it. Well, technically we don't pay for it. Our family might pay for it, and the taxman might take a wedge out because it won't make full use of the tax-free allowances. But yes, there's something called the rules of intestacy, which is a set of rules that was created in 1925. That effectively is the government will.
100 years old.
It's over 100 years old, and it has to exist because it's the default position. It's the backstop. So basically, when you pass away, the first question that's asked of you is, did you have your own will or not? And if you had your own will, great, the rules of intestacy never has to come into play. If the answer was no, they passed away without their own will, it's like, right, okay, so now the government will is what's going to be used. And the first question that's then asked from the government will is, was the person married or in a civil partnership? Not were they together for 30 odd years, not are they in love, not are they cohabiting, but are you married in a civil partnership? It's a yes or no question. And then depending on the answer to that leads to a series of other yes or no questions until eventually you get to a destination, if you like, and that's where everything goes. And that may not be what you wanted to happen.
Yeah.
And let me put it another way. We've written over 300,000 wills, and obviously we've never written one that mirrors the rules of intestacy.
No.
Because people want a unique will that's appropriate to them and
even
appropriate to their family.
Are married, it's still not going to be what you want.
It's not as straightforward as you would think.
And depending on the size of your estate, married couples aren't guaranteed to inherit everything from each other.
Gosh.
That's what blows people's
Yeah,
minds. So
that's a real shock.
unmarried partners, when you have that conversation, people can go, oh, I can sort of see that, even though it seems unfair.
Yeah.
But married couples will be fine, won't they? No. So the only way, can't stress this enough, the only way to make sure that what you want to happen when you're no longer here happens is to get rid of the government will and say, I'm making my own will. I want my last act on planet Earth, my last gift to my family, to be my act, my will. Because otherwise, your last act on planet Earth is going to be determined by a 100-year-old set of rules that doesn't care two hoops
and
about
could
you or your
cause family breakups because it's not
Awful.
what you know. You might have told your family what you want to happen, but if you haven't written it down in a legally binding will, that government will falls into place. And can you imagine? And obviously, I don't know what happens, but if you're looking down and you're seeing your family fall apart because they know what you wanted, and that isn't happening. And if you're married as well with children from different relationships, but you see yourself as a blended family, that's really upsetting because it just goes down bloodline. So if one parent dies first, their bloodline, their children from that other relationship, even though you're all one big family, they're disinherited instantly as that parent dies because it will go down the surviving parent's bloodline. And that upset is not what anybody would want to happen, but like us, we just didn't realise there was a government will that falls into place that is a yes or no answers, and isn't what anybody wants to happen. And for so little today, you can get that legally binding will for £99, for under £100, and splitting that cost as well over those 4 payments means it's £24.75. Please. We're terrible now. We sit down at dinner. You'd never invite us for dinner. Have you got a will?
It's not the first thing we bring.
No, it's not. No,
I love that. Hi, I'm Sean. Have you got a will?
We're terrible.
Love it.
Before the starter.
But we know so many people in our situation, and we didn't know. We're like, did you realise?
Just because there's so many misconceptions, isn't there, Georgia, that people have all these things that they think, oh, I'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you hear of common law husband and wife.
Yeah.
That was one of the things, for us.
My partner thought that was the thing. I had to break the news to him that wasn't the thing. But yeah, and you know, we use these terms so openly. And it's amazing how many people think that that's actually legal terminology, but it's not by any means. Or if you live together, I think it's for a period of 2 years, then you're entitled automatically.
We've heard that as well.
Yeah, but it's not the case whatsoever. No.
The common thing that gets mixed up is a 7-year rule. There's certain things you can do with inheritance tax where you can make gifts, and the number of times we're told, oh well, if we've been together for 7 years, we're okay. The 7-year thing comes up quite a lot, and it's like it's half information that's got diluted or confused somewhere along the line. So it can't be clearer. The only way to make sure that what you want to happen when you're no longer here is through your will. Otherwise, it will be the government will. There is no there's no option C, and so the trap that people can fall into is believing what's a non-professional, if you like, has told them, or I say assuming, but I think it's more a hope, or just hoping that everything's going to be okay, and that's just too risky.
It really is. That's why you should take advantage of the offers that we've got for you, not only on the wills, but also on lasting power of attorney. So you can see there, the will should be £249. The offer price should have been £124. It's down to £99 or £24.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. A lasting power of attorney, that should be £349. The offer price was supposed to be £239, £189 with another 20% off there, and that comes down again to £47.25 on your first of 4 payments.
And then you might decide to do the will and lasting power of attorney, and that is your biggest saving. You're saving more than you're spending here. It should be virtually £600. Normally our price would be $315, which is brilliant. That's your will and lasting power of attorney, but you have got that further 20% off. It's the deal we love. It's only these prices until close of business on Monday, so it is a time-limited offer. Goes down to £249, and again, split that cost. 4 payments of £62.25, saving £349 there. Don't forget, if you are one of the first 250 people, you will get that fabulous book as well, worth £25. That's why we do say do it now. We tend to forget if you don't do it right now this minute. It'll be Christmas before we know it. You think, I still haven't done my will. So do it now so you've taken that first step, but you will get the opportunity then to get that book, which sadly does always go. It's only for the first 250 people.
Go directly to simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. If you want to call the team in the call centre, they're there for about another 10 minutes. If you're watching on +1, go to the website or use the texting service. But if you do want to call, you don't need any information. 0333 600 2600. But the easiest and most popular way is that texting service.
So simple, isn't it? We've always got our phones glued to our hand, really, haven't we? You're watching the TV, you've got your phone right there. And you've done it. You've texted Will to 66777. You've secured all those prices. And I think that sometimes is the most difficult thing, that first step. I think we're a bit rubbish, aren't we, of getting things moving. We'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow just never comes, and another year has gone by. So do that right now. Text Will to 66777. You don't have to speak to anybody. You've just pressed send. It's done. You've got all the prices. You choose which offer, whether you want the will or lasting power of attorney and will, and it's done. And even if you've got the busiest time coming up, do it now and just say, when the team get in contact, say, I'm busy for 3 weeks. I can speak to you, and the time that's right for you is when Simpler Law will sit down and just have a really nice, easy conversation but we'll sort that legally binding will out.
So that was the other great thing for us. Everything was done at your pace. There's no pressure. Everything's explained beautifully. There's no confusing terminology. So now is the time to take advantage with that extra 20% across all of the offers that we've got for you. But again, to remind you, close of business on Monday. But we always say do it right now.
Yeah.
Don't let anything get in the way. You've taken that first step and you've started the ball rolling.
You know, our time just goes so fast. If you want to do lasting power of attorney, and we haven't gone into detail as well throughout the show of that, please do get in contact for that. That's originally how I met Simply Law, doing my mum's lasting power of attorney. And we'll perhaps just touch on that just very, very quickly, because we are sadly right at the end of the show. But lasting power of attorney, if someone falls poorly, loses capacity, it allows someone to step into their shoes, doesn't it? And sort out financial things first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can nominate somebody of your choice. So again, like you said, in the event that you lose capacity, they can step into your shoes and make day-to-day decisions in relation to your finances, whether that be bank accounts, paying a bill, anything like that.
Well, all these lists, there's a list, and it's a very small list, but it gives you an idea. Sadly, if perhaps you've got dementia, you can't sort these things out. No one can do it for you unless you've got lasting power of attorney. And those things still need sorting. You know, perhaps you need to sell the house to go into a home. Your pension still needs sorting. So financially, this allows you, because you can't go into someone's bank right now and sort their bank or take money out or pay their bills or buy food for them. But it allows someone to step into your shoes that you trust that can do that. And when we came to you, we came for the financial side of things, but there's also, as well, a second lasting power of attorney, isn't there? And yes. I thought this was just as important or more important, personally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this is the health and welfare lasting power of attorney. So again, this document allows somebody who you've nominated to deal with different scenarios relating to, say, for example, your living situation. So it could be if you need to go into care, or alternatively, if they want to look after you at home, that document entitles them to do that. And it comes down to day-to-day decisions which we take for granted.
Yeah.
Getting dressed, what we're wearing, what we're eating.
They sound really basic, don't they? But when that's taken away from you, so important.
If you've got a loved one that's poorly, it'd be even more upsetting if you walked in to visit them in a home and their hair was a mess, when you know it was so important to them that their hair was done, sort of thing, or they were wearing clothes that you just knew that they would never wear. You've taken part of them away, haven't you?
The financial document's pragmatic, isn't it? We know that money makes the world go round. We know institutions will be sympathetic for about 3 seconds, but then everyone still wants to get paid, unfortunately. But with the health and welfare one, when we speak to clients and we speak to people as well, and from my own personal experience, if someone does have dementia, for example, the money side, you're happy that that's taken care of, but actually the health and welfare is really important, because that's what matters to this person now. So they're not bothered about money, they're bothered about what's the quality of life like now. Can we continue their life the way that it was before? Have we got a voice to do that? And if you make a lasting power of attorney today, whilst you have capacity, as a donor, you can donate your voice to that person or to the people that you trust, and that can be worth more than money, weirdly. So I understand you came to us before we knew you on here with your mum, as a lot of people do, said, I'm going to do the financial one because that makes sense, but the health and welfare one makes sense for very different reasons, and arguably is as important, if not more so. But it's personal choice. You've got the choice to make either of those documents or both of those documents.
And if you haven't got lasting power of attorney, sadly you have to go down a very long, expensive route.
Horrible,
of trying to step into that loved one's shoes, because you have to prove that you're the right person to do it.
You basically, you're demonstrating that you're the right person. And to be fair, that person might not be who you would have chosen for yourself. So again, it's quite a selfless thing to make a lasting power of attorney, but at the same time, you know you're doing something incredibly valuable for yourself, because you're naming the people that you trust to step into your shoes and not leaving it to chance. Everything's
so important, and whether it is lasting power of attorney that you want to do this evening, or whether it is writing that will, please make sure you get in contact right now. The deals we've had this morning are only up until close of business on Monday, so please, this is the time to do it right now. Get in contact before you go to bed, before you go out to work, because Monday will come and go and you've missed out on that extra 20% off. So take a look at those prices. Whether you're doing the will, you've got our regular price. You've got a great price already, but then with the extra 20% off, it gives you £150 saving. And under £100, split that cost with 4 payments to £24.75. Lasting power of attorney, again, so important, but a massive saving there.
Yeah, we were just mentioning lasting power of attorney for you. £349, well, you can see, drops to £239 and then comes down to £189 with that extra 20% discount. That's why we say do it right now. 4 interest-free payments if you want to split the cost, £47.25 on your first of 4 payments there. But the biggest saving of all is if you go for that combination, the will and lasting power of attorney. It should be almost £600 at full price. £315 would have been the offer price, but down to £249 or £62.25 on your first of 4 payments.
But what you need to do is just secure those deals. Even if you're not quite sure, will I do will and lasting power? Just secure the prices.
Yep.
Do it right now, because the first 250 people will get this fabulous book, What My Family Should Know, where you put in all that vital information at that time when people are so distressed because they've lost a loved one. You've given them that helping hand. Everything they need to find is in that book. Even things that we don't think about, like the passwords for tablets or phones. And that might be that they need to get certain email information, or it might be that they want to get sentimental photographs and videos. And it's all in that book. But do that now, get in contact now to make sure you get that book. It's worth £25. And to get in contact, it's so simple. Either do it via the website, via the phones till 3 a.m. and on business hours you can jump back onto the phones, or the easiest way is to text, actually. So simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Phone lines are there till, well, virtually about to finish, but you'll just catch them. 0333 600 2600. The easiest, text will to 66777. You've done it already, haven't you? That's how quick and simple it is, and you've secured all those prices and taken the first step, which is always the trickiest thing, to make sure you actually get that will written. Because don't forget, you've got a will if you haven't written a legally binding one. The government has written it for you, and honestly, it's not what you want to happen.
Something that's so important, but it's so easy to just take that first step with experts in the field when it comes to simpler law. So just get in touch, take advantage, and make sure you do it now, because those offers, remember, only until close of business on
And if you've
Monday.
just switched on and think, oh gosh, I've missed it, flick over to +1.
Yep.
And watch that. Watch our last hour, because honestly, writing a will is so important, as is lasting power of attorney, and so affordable tonight with those deals.
I've got to say a huge thank you to the team, to Ian and Georgia for joining us once again. Lovely to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I'm sure it's been, again, another massively busy show, because those offers are so good. So do take that first step. Start the ball rolling, because that's always the hardest thing.
And do it with a professional team that make it so easy and make it so pleasurable as well. Such a great company that just makes something that can be a bit daunting probably one of the easiest things that you do in the end, and that weight is lifted off your shoulder and you've got that job done. We're good at putting things off or actually not getting round to things. Tonight's the night you get it sorted.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very, very soon.
See you later.